So, Ian, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
You know, I thought I was all right, but then I had this realization. So, you ever been to Dunkin Donuts?
I've not.
So, yeah, I hadn't
Maybe
either.
you're hypothetical. I've not been there. I don't know. I have no jumping on point for which you're going to transport me.
Okay, you know restaurants.
Yes, I've been to
Imagine
those.
one of those, but it just serves donuts.
Okay.
But I had never been either because I was like, goes to a restaurant just for donuts? You can get donuts anywhere.
Right.
But I was out with my sister at the park a couple days ago, and I was like, hey, let's get some donuts. I was in a donut mood. And at first I was like, oh, let's go to our local bakery. But then I was like, wait a minute. This is one of the only chances I'll get to go to Dunkin' Donuts. So let's go to Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm thinking, right, like this is a donut restaurant. Surely they got to have some serious shit, right?
Right.
Like I was in Chicago a while back. And I got an old fashioned donut, which is like donut, but it's like all crispy and kind of jagged. And it's really good. So I was like, surely they got to have the works down at this place. And I walk in, right? And they didn't have shit. They had nothing. They had like a wall that was like, they had like, oh, we can get like a chocolate cake donut. There's like a strawberry donut. We have donut holes, but we call them something stupid because they're our branded one. But like, your whole thing is donuts. And I shit you not, my local gas station has a better variety of donuts than Dunkin' Donuts, the donut restaurant. What is wrong with you?
How far did you
drive?
One job. How far did you drive to this?
Oh, not far. I wouldn't have driven that far.
It's still a waste of gas in this economy. So,
right?
What are they doing?
So I got like 2 chocolate cake donuts and I think like a Long John or something. But it wasn't even like they didn't. But they didn't even have like the chocolate cake donuts that are like the normal cake donut with the chocolate frosting. They only had the chocolate donut with the chocolate frosting. And you don't always want that much chocolate. But that's all they had. Dunkin' Donuts did not have a wider variety of Dunkin's Donuts. So anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to Sonic Comic Chaos.
Oh, darn. I thought this was going to be an equivalency of like, and so you see, kids, IDW is the Dunkin' Donuts of our Sonic podcast because I don't want to go back and I want to go to McDonald's, which is Archie Sonic.
You gotta love how whenever I talk about food on here, it's never like, oh, I was sampling a fine stew and I found myself not quite enjoying
it. I ordered Reese's on Amazon.com.
It's always like, I was trying to shovel garbage in my mouth, but the garbage wasn't the garbage I wanted.
It was just rat poison. Come on.
So we're back, everyone. We hope you missed us. With a first for this show, Ian, do you want to explain to the audience what happened?
Sure. We recorded a version of this episode like how many months ago? A little bit ago.
It couldn't have been that long. Maybe like a month, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah, a little over a month. But basically, we did this, and I guess the recording just was really messed up on both our ends. And so, therefore, we were like, well, I don't want to talk about it again because we just got all the emotions out. You know, we're very passionate on this show. So we were like, all right, the only way we could like care about this peak fiction again is in close succession is we got to read trash. And so we dove into the dumpster at Dunkin' Donuts and we found some old IDW copies. Actually, the issues are pretty good from what we read. Or interesting. So we're back. We've cleansed our palate in terms of like, it's been long enough. We've reset our brains. And so now we're back to talk about Archie Sonic again. By the way, was IDW called Sonic Comic Chaos or is that an offshoot?
Oh, fuck. Yes, it's Sonic Comic Chaos. It's all Sonic Comic Chaos unless we're talking about a thing that's not a comic.
All right. Well, that messes up our number scheme. So whatever.
We don't have a number scheme. I dropped the
because we with Reboot we started and we were keeping track. And so I think it'll be very funny if someone goes to this playlist and it's like they get to like the one right before it's like welcome to Sonic Comic Chaos like 29 and they come to this one welcome to Sonic Comic Chaos 54 and it's like whoa.
Ian, I stopped numbering them at like episode 10.
Oh, well, and I'm still here, so anyway.
Well, because my mindset was like, I think this is when we had decided we were doing Preboot afterwards. I was like, it's gonna be really confusing if it's like episodes 1 through like 15 are Reboot, and then like then we do Preboot and that's like 16, and then also we do throwback episodes. So like, is it like, so is this? I was just like, fuck it, it's all just Sonic Comic Chaos.
And you figured this out and probably relayed this information to me before, no doubt.
Almost certainly. But
audience, I am stupid. But anyway, moving forward.
He's just forgetful. It's fine. But yeah, so we're here. We're doing this again. And if it messes up a second time, let's just say I may be paying a premature visit to the Ancient Walkers.
Let's go. Kill God yourself.
Yeah. I had a fun I had this idea today where I was like, what if Ian starts sabotaging these on purpose? what if you're like, how far can I push him? If we have to do it a third time, will he do it as some kind of interpretive puppet show or something?
No. I see. There's two kinds of trolling, right? Okay. I don't know. We're never gonna start this episode. Where you live, have you ever done something called toilet papering?
You mean TPing?
Yeah, TPing. Well, we call it both. But anyway, yeah, for anyone in the audience, you take toilet paper, you go to someone's house, and you throw toilet paper all over the yarn. It's good fun. All right, there's a difference between toilet papering and egging someone's house. Toilet papering is cute fun, you throw the toilet paper, go, oh, those darn kids, maybe they chase you or whatever, and then they clean it up or they make their kids do it and it takes 5 minutes and it's oh, that was good fun, and then the other kids in town, they do it to the rival neighbors or whatever. Egging is you actually got to clean it. It takes a lot of time. It's not fun. It's not funny, and there's a difference between me purposely sabotaging this and I would never sabotage you intentionally, but I pray every time that it does get sabotaged, that God himself will step in to make it worse for you. So I would never do it directly though. That's egging your house. But if God steps in and drops the tree on the podcast, that's out of my control, and that's some good old fashioned fun. So if this goes poorly, you get to enjoy it. So.
Oh, you have to deal with it too.
True.
Anyway, we are almost 7 minutes into the recording.
And now we're not going to talk about the comic because we got to do the thing. What's the thing we do every video?
Ian Ace, read your comments.
Let's go.
So, from Spinball Productions 9678. Now, you actually read this comment and you responded to it. It was a comment asking you about season 2 of Ghost of Molly McGee, and a comment asking you about your Kingdom Hearts videos. Now, you responded to the question about Molly McGee. You said season 2 was roughly the same quality as season 1. But this person explicitly asked if there was any chance you'd make more Kingdom Hearts videos. And you, Mr. Waffles, dodged the question. Now, thankfully, I have you in a corner now. I have you trapped.
That gun to the back of my head's feeling really cold right now.
So when can we expect a list of all of King Mickey's war crimes? When can we expect it?
Oh, gosh, he has a lot. But regardless, never, because I'm not making any anymore. So there's the answer. I just didn't want to hurt their feelings.
Well, does he really commit war crimes?
That depends on, where you're at in the war.
I know. I think there are... Anyway.
One man's terrorist, another man freedom fighter, so...
So anyway, Bowser Breaker 2515... said you talked about Surge and Kip being draining, which reminds me of what Lowart said about Sally. So, Ian, as the person who put words in Lowart's mouth, maybe you have some thoughts about this. What?
Cringe, Lowart. Sorry, I didn't want to hear his name.
She just existed to suffer for a while, but that wasn't draining because she had some personality. Was it that funny?
I thought it was funny.
You kept laughing for a while.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Jesus, what a shit show this has become.
We're back, baby.
We're back. But that wasn't training because she had some personality before then and definitely after, and her suffering wouldn't last 5 issues straight as the main story. Archie never bored me even during Endgame, but Surge and Kid are just awful, and it's Knack, not Fang. I also imagine him being Australian, not Southern. But it's Fang. It's Fang now, right?
It is Fang now. What they're saying is that they're fighting against the establishment. It's Knack, damn it, that kind of thing.
My headcanon was always that Knack was his real name and Fang was his edgy, I'm a bounty hunter, call me Fang.
I think according to the Superstars tie-in comic, not the one we read, but there was a little one they released on Twitter and stuff. I think that is the idea they go with, that all of his different names that he's had are different aliases, but I think his pure name is Fang now.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, and also in regard to Sally and her character, I would say with Surge and Kit, I think it feels more fresh because it's new. With Archie, we have a lot of hindsight and we also have a lot of context surrounding it. I do genuinely think Archie, the lows of it are insanely low. I think the lows of Evan Stanley's writing are not that interesting to talk about, but I think like a lot of the more interesting stuff that she's written is super interesting and stuff I didn't like. The stuff I didn't like, what they're going for is like the idea of like Archie is still interesting even when it's bad, or like it's still kind of compelling. And I would say that IDW has those things too, but I do think Archie sometimes is just horribly terrible. So
Yeah.
so like
Well, we talked about that when that was going on. Like, there was just a time where Sally just existed to suffer, and it was really annoying. But like they said, like, at least that.
I guess to be fair, Sally's suffering was like kind of spread out a little bit.
Yes.
Whereas like, which I honestly I think made it worse. But with maybe Surgeon Kit, since it's so like visceral, it's like literally all within the span of like, you know, like back to back to back to back issues. Maybe that also makes it more tiring for people. So I can see the different perspectives. But I do think that Archie can give IDW a run for its money with regards to its low points.
Oh yeah, I was listening back to some of our old episodes actually recently, and yeah, like you can just hear it in my voice in that the one where he bangs girls. Like, just like, because part of it's a bit, obviously, right? Part of it's a character I put on of like, oh, I hate this comic so much, but you can just hear that I'm like, this fucking sucks. Then from JES1001, if I had a nickel for every time a series called Knuckles that kept focusing around everything else except Knuckles himself, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice, right?
I'm very glad they made this joke because I've been wanting to. I have no idea what capacity I would ever bring this up, so I can bring it up here. So I love that is like the one joke that nobody ever like makes a different version of. Everyone just does the joke from Phineas and Ferb because it's that good of a joke, I guess, to everybody. And I agree, it is funny, but I just think it's so, I think it's so funny that it's so pointed that nobody does like a riff on it or like just says like 3 or like 5 or like undercuts it. Everyone, the joke is, I think at this point, that you think they're going to do a different version of the joke, and yet they just do the joke, and I love it. It's really
it's great. It's great. And then finally from Marcus Mint, love the video and this podcast. You do have a great dynamic. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Arigato.
I had a thought about the mandates listening to this episode, specifically the effect of the ever-feared mandates on the psychology of the writers. I think Flynn has been writing for Sega for so long that he just knows what is going to cause issues, such as permissions and sundry. So Flynn, like a dog in an electric fence, naturally avoids going near them as much as possible. I think Barnes is newer, so he is going to test the limits much more. Flynn, on the other hand, has most likely had several plans that he has had permissions yanked at the last possible minute, leaving him straggling to replace it with something. Yeah. Going by the development of Sonic Boom alone, I wouldn't be surprised if that hasn't happened at least once. Yeah, you were saying, Ian?
Yeah, no, I was going to say I agree. Like, I agree with what they're saying, where it's like, that's a very good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah, probably Stanley is in a similar boat to Flynn. The entertainment industry is an unforgiving place, especially for those with the creative side of production. I wish them all the best. Yeah, certainly that last one. I think I hope that we always get across whenever even if we rag on, something, that we never mean any ill will towards the writers and the artists. That's a hard job.
Absolutely. Flynn is my favorite Sonic writer, as much as I bitch about him. So
yeah, same here. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably that. I think also I would not be surprised if Scrapnik Island maybe had less of a magnifying glass on it because it was not the main book.
It's possible. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably true.
What was the first thing they said? Because I had something I was gonna add.
Love the video on this podcast. Do you have a great dynamic?
What's after that?
I thought about the mandates listening to the episodes.
Oh, the mandates. Yes, thank you. First off, thanks for the dynamic comment. I love the Silver Ace, so I'll always hang out with him.
Thanks, Ian.
But you're welcome. But
I tolerate you too.
Yeah, one of us had to be the man in the situation, and be like, but I fucking hate you. So the mandates. So people talk about like, are they real? Blah 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 blah. What did Flynn ever really say them? So I actually did recently find like an old blog post where, because he used to be Flynn was very active in like the forums of like during Archie and all that stuff. He did actively put out a list, like an actual list, and it's all the things that you've heard. So those are real things. What Flynn has consistently stated, so this isn't like like Flynn hid these or like people are making up. No, they are real. He did mention them at the time. Now, what people will kind of bring up against Flynn is they'll say like, oh, like, but sometimes he does it and sometimes he doesn't do it. And he has explicitly stated multiple times, these are things that like, yes, are in place, but they're not like strict. They're always going to be there. It's not that you can't sometimes have twists on them. It's not that sometimes you can't like convince them otherwise. It's not that they're always going to be this way. So he's always been very vocal that there are no strict mandates, but these are general rules that he has to follow, at least back then. And, the current ones, they can constantly change. To give some perspective, it was a mandate that he could not use Cream the Rabbit for years. And then suddenly he got an email that said, hey, yeah, you can use Cream now. He's like, oh, oh, okay. so that's kind of the deal with the mandates. The mandates are just like any other thing where someone tells you can do this or that, and like with life itself, you can negotiate. So just so people know that yes, they are in fact real, but no, they are not a strict thing. So if Flynn ever contradicts himself on this, it's not that he's trying to like be manipulative and lying and stuff. So
yeah, and I would also say like as far as the thing about like Flynn and Stanley probably just know what they can get away with, and they go for that. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. Like, you're working on a monthly comic, like shit's got to get done. Like, I would not be surprised if you're trying to keep things maybe safer, and I can't blame them for that. And also, like I think I said on the Scrapnik Island episode, that's a 4-issue miniseries, so I'd imagine there was probably room for more back and forth than like again a comic that has to come out every month.
Right.
But yeah, so that's all the comments I have.
I think we can start.
Yeah, you got louder. Why are you louder now?
Oh, hello. Sorry.
I can't.
How do I fix this? Hello.
Okay, now you sound normal again.
Now we're back to normal. I like nudged the cord of the mic and is like, I'm gonna sabotage the show.
Audience, you're all hearing this now. This is the universe and Ian is working against us. But
okay, we can begin. Do I sound okay now?
All righty, folks. All right, it's time for the best thing we've ever read on this show.
Let's go.
Just saying that up front, but it begins. Oh, jeez. My own gastrointestinal system is trying to stop us too. Jeez.
You're trying to die. We will not talk about this issue.
All right. Archie Sonic the Hedgehog number 173. Roundup. So I gotta say, okay, cards on the table up front. I was reading this issue and I was like, oh no, is this not as good the second time? And I would say this issue is definitely a lot slower, a lot more melancholic. And so I think it kind of gives off that impression. But it is still very good. It still is a very good lead into what we're about to see. And so, Ian, how does this issue start?
This issue starts with Bunny and Antoine. Antoine, in specifically, proposing to Bunny. Let's go. Finally.
Woo! Yeah. Which is very cute. And everyone thinks is very cute. And Amy says they're really going to be so girl.
Yes, which they changed because they were like, oh, it needs to be grammatically accurate. Cringe. Bad. It is way cuter that she's like, oh my gosh, we're going to be like, so girl? Yes, absolutely. Keep that in the original. Cringe that they changed it. Bad. Anyway, but I really like that so this is the first issue where they introduce these little character portraits at the bottom. And I always love that it's not just like, at least for a really long time, it is always like unique drawings. So it's not like, oh, like they took a snapshot of Sonic from the issue and put it over like Hero of Mobius. Like Tracy Yardley and whoever's doing this had to draw a unique image of Sonic and Bunny and Antoine and Amy and all them and give them like little, like they're looking at each other. And so like these are just little details that you're just not normally just gonna like brush over if you're reading an issue. But if you ever go back to Archie, really take in those little details, because that's like the soul. That's like that is soul right there. Like when you put that into a story, something that you're just gonna, oh, here's the characters, I already know who that is, I don't need to read that. And you go, it's like, no, they're all looking at each other. The kiss between Bunny and Antoine is in the portrait.
Yeah.
So like it's really cute how all that like ties together. And they started doing that from now on, and I freaking love it. It's awesome.
But yeah, this scene is lovely, and it's got a great interaction between Sonic and Antoine. Where he's like, he's shaking his hand, he's patting him on the back. He's like, so you and I realized when I was reading this first time, Ian, you know that meme where it's the guy texting his crush and he's like, hey, I've had a crush on you for a while. And the girl's like, oh, or whoever's on the other's like, who's the other guy? He's like, oh, I brought him in for support.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just here for support, man. Yeah.
That's what Sonic is here.
Yeah. There's a cute little moment. It's kind of, you might miss it. There's a part where he's like, oh, how long did it, blah, blah. Oh, no. He's like, oh, I didn't expect you guys to like, get married or whatever. And then Bunny says, well, you're not the only one who's full of surprises, which is like a compliment towards Antoine of like, it's like, yeah, my man's pretty fucking cool, Sonic. Yeah. So I think that's cute. And then also, yeah, Amy and their reaction. I also like that when Sonic is shaking Antoine's head, and again, he's like kind of propping him up, like, yeah, good job, man. You can see Bunny and Amy in the background, like jumping in the air, like holding hands. Adorable. It's very cute. But
no, it's great because, like, because Sonic's obviously being like his normal teasing self. He's like, "Oh, you really needed me," and "Oh, how long did it take you?" But you can tell, like, based on his body language, that he's like, "Good for you, man." Like,
well, yeah, and that right there, that body language thing, I think that's what this issue has in spades is like little moments where like someone's saying something and then like they're either adding to it or adding a little nuance that's just in the way the character speaks or the way they look or like the way their facial expressions is. And so like stuff like that, like just immediately we've spent like a billion years just on like these one page basically. And that's just because there's just so much to like dissect and like brings these characters to life in a very human way. It's what I just love about Archie and why I can always go back to it is like I could just look at this little scene, these two pages, and just feel all the life from these characters, both in the dialogue and just looking at them and in the coloring and the sunset and all that stuff. So it's just great.
And also, I feel like I should remind everyone, because again, it's been a while. This Scourge attacking, Fiona breaking up with Sonic, Shadow going into a disc you guys' memories, all happened within one day.
Around that, yeah, definitely.
I think it's all within one day because Sonic's like...
The only one I'm not sure of is Shadow. I don't know if he's like, let's go find my girl. Because the reason I think those are separate is you gotta remember, they found Fiona like outside of Freedom HQ, but like Sonic and Shadow and Knuckles and them are at Freedom HQ and they're like, let's go find my girlfriend. It would be funny if like they look around and then they come back and Sonic's like, well, I guess I didn't find my girlfriend. And then like 1 hour later, like she's coming back and then Amy's like, I'll kill that bitch. So so it could be in 24 hours. If not, the only thing that's not happening in 24 hours is Shadow. And regardless, there's still a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's still a lot of stuff, and my interpretation is still funnier. So let's just go with that.
It could be accurate. So there's literally no reason to say it didn't. So
yeah. But yeah, so we cut back to Freedom HQ, and they're on the phone with Knuckles, and Knuckles has a hilarious setup. So the Chaotix are guarding Mina on her world tour, and on their end, Julie Sue has converted her like robot parts into like an antenna on her head,
which is a great idea.
And Charmy's like holding up a TV that's connected to it that Knuckles is talking it to.
Yeah, they're like, they're like bums. I love it. There's like, how do we connect back?
Yeah. But yeah, so and we find out that apparently Rouge stole the Master Emerald, which I think is so funny that Knuckles is like, we've got like angsty, rebellious teen Knuckles who's like, fuck the Master Emerald.
Yeah. Well, he's like, if the island actually fell, I'm gonna kick my dad's ass.
Yeah.
Like that's which is funny that like apparently like he's not worried about it. Like if anything, it kind of does show his trust for his dad, but also like if she did actually steal the emerald, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed.
Yeah.
How did my dad let that happen if that's the case?
Yeah, but so we find out that she's stolen the emerald and she's gonna sell it to the highest bidder. And so Knuckles is like, all right, I'll come back and go punch a woman or something.
It's usually me making the misogynist jokes. You're leveling up.
So Sally is like, hey, freedom fighters, let's get away from this scene, if you know what I mean. So anyway, the marshlands that night. Hey, I just realized the moon is a sphere.
Cringe?
Yeah, because in Archie, we clearly see it got blown up.
Wow. And people get mad at Takeshi Iizuka for being a hack game maker, but maybe Flynn is a hack fan. Or Yardley. You know, maybe Yardley didn't get the memo. Regardless, someone's a hack in this case. And I hate them. It's not a well. To be fair, we can. This is, you know, as any good Sonic fan would do. I will deflect for the thing I like. So what I would say is that it's not Flynn's fault because I bet Takashi Iizuka told him in the same way he said for the games that the moon just spun around and it's on a different side, which is not how the moon works. But maybe that's how it works in Mobius, you know. So so if it's bad, it's not Flynn's fault it's bad because it's Zuka's fault is bad. There you go. That's my Sonic fan moment for the day.
Can we just take a second to appreciate in this episode that is certainly going to be 3 hours long, the fact that Chow the Hedgehog is the closest thing we have to like a proper follow-up to Sonic Adventure 2, and the first shot of that game is Shadow standing in front of the full unbroken moon. The first shot
from his game that introduced the concept.
Yes. But
the moon, actually, I'm sorry. Here's the thing: the moon is really cool in this issue because I don't know if you noticed, but like there's a really cool like kind of like not melancholic, but sort of reflective vibe. Like there's a warmth, but also like kind of like sad vibe to the issue, like when they're in the marshlands and stuff. And I think the moon, they consistently use it as like kind of like this light shining down on everybody as they're kind of like airing out a lot of their dirty laundry, basically, which we'll get to. But I just really like the vibe of this issue. Like, and the moon definitely adds to that because it's huge. like throughout like all the scenes and stuff. It looks really good. So
Yes, I agree. But so they're in the marshlands. They're staking out for Rouge selling the Master Emerald. And Sonic's talking to Antoine. He's just complaining. He's like, man, Sally sucks.
yeah.
And he's like, she's, you tell her about your marriage and this is the first thing she does. And she hasn't been fighting with us and da 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 da. And Antoine's like, look, man, cut her some slack. Like, she's been dealing with a lot. Like, whatever. And there's a great point where Sonic goes, since when were you the voice of reason, Twan? And he goes, it comes with time and maturity.
which is one really good for their dynamic to kind of like put it back in the spot. Because remember, Antoine's been gone for like 40 issues. So,
yes.
So it's really important to like get their like dynamic back in like the spotlight. But what I really like about this so there's two layers to this. One, if we all recall, Antoine's father died. And during that scene, one of the big things that Antoine talked about was he was like, I suck. Like, here's all like my character flaws that I really had, like, through the previous writers and things. And I've been I've been wildly inconsistent. And, my life sucks and I'm a failure to your name. And I really, the whole point of that story was that his dad wanted him to focus on the positive traits that he has and like use those and go forward. And he like basically, he didn't forgive Antoine, but he allowed Antoine to forgive himself. And so what I really like is that Antoine saying this about Sally, it doesn't feel like just like, because this could have been like any character. It could have been like Tails, right? It could have been like Tails being like, well, I think Sally is going through stuff, or like, maybe Bunny could have said it. But because it's Antoine and Antoine has that story, it comes from a place of like, because he was given that grace to like be a better person, he wants to like also offer that to like Sally. But what I think is most important is that like he says all these things. He's like, well, here's all the things she's been going through, blah, 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 blah. Because, regardless of all the things that Sally's done in the issues we've read, she's never doing it out of like malice. She's doing it because she's hurt and she's in pain. The problem is just the comic doesn't let her like explore that. So she's just doing the bad part about being in pain, which is that you lash out at others. And at a certain point, it feels like the comic is trying to show that she doesn't want to grow or she doesn't want to change from these things. So it just becomes annoying and draining, even if I can understand where she's coming from. So the comic is kind of like trying to remind the audience of that, trying to remind the audience that the bad, like the annoying things and the bad things that Sally has done has come from a place of like genuine pain and misunderstanding and trying, And so what I think is really good though, is that Flynn then has Sonic be like, okay, yeah, sure. But like, we've all gone through stuff. Right. So like, what does that give her the, excuse? And then he just says, I agree, but that's why I'm glad that we all are here to like help each other. So I just think that's such a like a mature way to go about it. And it doesn't like complicate it in too many one way or the other, where it's not like, oh, Sally is this much fault, or like, oh, we should totally forgive her, or like, oh, nothing happened, or, oh, we should hate her. No, it's basically saying like, yeah, things are messed up, but like, she's our friend Sonic. So let's be kind to her. Let's love her, which is really mature. So like, and very good for Antoine's character. So I really love that scene. Again, it's like one page, but it like just has so much going on. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And then we cut to the Bunny and Sally. They're talking. Sally's sad. Because of course Sally is sad. but it's good. It's done well here.
Well, because she's building on and basically being like, man, I really fucking suck.
Yeah.
And so, which is good because you want her to like, realize it, but then be like, no, you have friends who care about you,
Yeah. And a little detail that I'm not sure I noticed before this last time I read through it is that when she's looking through the binocular, she's crying. Like you see tears streaming down her face, which is like, oh, geez.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's where like, if you read her dialogue, she's like, oh, I haven't really been with the freedom. If you wanted to read that like a book, you could read that as like her being kind of like stoic. But now when you look at it and you see the tears, and like you said, you only noticed it this time. Now you could actually like envision in your head, like maybe her voice cracking a little bit, or like maybe it being a little more like diminutive or whatever, which makes you care about Sally, because we want to care about Sally. We want to not hate her, right? So like Flynn is trying to instill that humanity while still giving her like taking agency of it and being like, I haven't really been a part of the team, like I'm doing this because I'm jealous, and I don't know how to like do that, I don't know how to handle that, and then so Bunny's the one to be like, well, I'm glad you noticed it because I didn't know if you did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Fang shows up with red eyes for some reason.
It's Knack. The commenter established this.
Ian.
Oh no. Am I being scolded?
Dude, I hope someone out there one day makes a compilation of all the times I say your name like I'm your parent who's scolding you, because it happens with alarming frequency.
It does.
Anyway, point being, Fnac. You know what? That's his name now. Fnac. Are you happy now?
I do. I like that. Call him that for now.
A commenter, I love you. I'm not making fun of you specifically. I'm making fun of Ian. But
Of course.
but he's like, hey Sally, I remember when you kicked me in the nuts. So I'm gonna shoot you.
Fair.
And then Bark and Bean show up, and Sonic and Antoine fight them, and they're on extreme gears. And we find out that Bean got them when he deserted the Armada.
Yeah, which if you're reading it for the first time, you're like, I have no idea what this means, and you just wipe over it. But then on reread, you're like, wait, like the Battlebird Armada? Holy crap, Flynn set that up. That's really cool. And he also, if you remember, or actually you might be getting to it, is the Sonic Riders two-parter in this? Or is that that before?
We did that forever ago.
I've slept since then, at least a month. But in that story, Jet the Hawk also said like, oh, like times have been tough since I quit the Armada. So I really like that Flynn, because like the Battlebirds aren't gonna appear for like real world years, and like when these were coming out, and then also like just like tens and tens of issues. So like it's really cool that he's establishing like right now just with a throwaway line of like, oh yeah, like these things are connected, which is really cool. So
yeah. But so they fight, and there's a Bean is not shutting up as he's want to do. Antoine actually has a cool maneuver where he bat ducks and he like slices Bark's board in half.
Yeah.
And I think you said this the first time we recorded this, Ian. Isn't all the nonsense that Bean is spouting when Sonic's like strangling him like stuff from Sonic Riders?
Yeah, if you like do poor tricks or whatever, you mess up the tricks, he says stuff like that, which is, or the game says that instead of like, oh, awesome, whatever, which is really funny.
Yeah, I only ever played Zero Gravity and people yell at me for it. But anyway.
Not even for liking it, just for playing it?
Well, but people are always like, oh, Zero Gravity was such a stripped down version of the original. It's like, well, see, which one has silver? Your argument is invalid.
But you didn't say it like that. You said it like people got mad at me for playing. So I just imagine like you're in your room minding your own business, and your friends come over like, dude, are you playing Sonic like Riders 2, bro? And it's like I'm just playing the game. What are you talking about? I don't even have an opinion on it.
It was exactly that. How did you know?
Okay.
But
I was there.
Yeah. Then so this is the first time I heard the name The Marvelous Queen for Fnack's bike. And it was very confusing the first time I read it.
Yes.
Because I thought he was just making a joke about Sally. But no, that's the bike's name. But anyway.
It's also a joke about Sally.
It is also a joke about Sally. And then Mogul shows up and spouts exposition. It's whatever. It's not, here's the thing, it's not nearly as bad as it has been in the past. But it's just like, hey, you know a lot of stuff you didn't see? Let's tell you about a lot of stuff you didn't see. You want to see some stuff that like we just didn't show until right now? Hey, how about that?
Yeah. I at least appreciate that they've kept the running gag that the editor is really annoyed.
Yeah.
Because it says I think if you have the volumes, it just tells you what he's talking about. But in the actual like the individual issues, it says something to the effect of like here he goes again, and then like another one comes in and is like, we think he's done.
Yeah. Well, because in the volumes, it just references the other volumes.
Stupid. Yeah, of course that would make the scene worse. You've deleted the joke.
I mean, fair enough. But yeah, basically he's like, yeah, so Adam broke me out, but he stole my Chaos Emerald, and my Destructix went off with Dr. Evil, and now Naugus doesn't have a brain, but you know what, everything's fine. I'm going to get the Master Emerald. It's going to be super cool. And then Sonic and Bunny show up, and they beat Naugus because Naugus tries to shadow meld behind them. There's a fun bit where he's like 50 ring, says he tries to pop out behind us, and Bunny just like goes like bang.
Knocks him out.
And then Mogul is like, oh, I'm gonna use my magic on you, and then Sally just hits him with the bike.
Yeah, which is great. She looks so happy.
Yeah, it's the shot where she's like flying up in front of the moon is a great one. And then they're like, all right, Rouge, time to beat you up. And she's like, nah, you see, it wasn't the real Master Emerald. It was a table with a green light, which I feel like Mogul should have been able to like sense, right?
Maybe he was just that desperate or something.
Sure. But so she's like, I'm doing this because I want to bang Knuckles. Like, don't question me.
Which, by the way, audience, is not a joke. That is like her motivation.
That is not a joke.
Like later issues, like her first issue, when she shows up in like Flynn's era, or like the first time they set this up, is that she's interacting with Julie Sue, and Julie Sue's like, "That's my man, don't touch him." And she's like, "Oh, I touch only men." And she's like, "You bet!" And she says, "Bat!" And then she kicks her. And then this issue, she's like, "Oh, I want Knuckles to kiss me." And then literally like 2 issues later, they have a joke where she's like, oh, let's go look for Espio Knuckles alone, and he's like, you do that, Rouge? And Julie Sue goes, she do anything.
Oh yeah, that one's
It's
great.
very explicit.
Very explicit. Yeah, so they all.
And I guess to just we could just get this done with Rouge. I would say she's the weakest part of this issue because and also I just think she's one of the weakest characters in pre-boot Archie, just because like Flynn sets up the stuff with her and Julie Sue. Spoilers: this goes literally nowhere ever.
Yeah.
It is never like punctuated on of like Julie Sue and like Rouge having this rivalry. She basically drops like caring about Knuckles pretty soon, like in her next appearance with Knuckles, I think. So like for the most part, this goes nowhere, and so it just kind of leaves Rouge as this kind of like aimless character for most of her appearances, because you can't go back to the scene and look at it as like, oh, what does it say about Rouge? What does this do for a character? Is it really fun or charming? Because she's just kind of there, and then she's like, I did it for Knuckles so he would bang me. Spoilers, he does not. So it's literally like worthless, to like in the long run.
Does Knuckles not bang her in this children's comic? Wow.
You say that like Sonic and Sally have not canonically banged twice.
Yeah, it's true. Wait, twice? What was the first time?
The first time was in the timeline when his kids were alive, and the second time was in the second timeline where they were dead, and they made new ones.
That's fair. Well, okay. Just children existing is not equivalent to...
That doesn't mean they had sex.
That doesn't mean they had sex. They definitely had sex the second time. That couch was sullied.
Oh gosh.
But
yeah, so I just wanted to throw that. No.
Oh god.
It's never gonna end. Am I good now?
You're good now. What happened?
I literally nudged the cord and it was like, fuck you. And it's
I am not editing this out. People need to hear.
Yeah, they need to know the struggle of trying to get this dumb episode done. Anyway, all I wanted to say is Rouge isn't very well written. That's a knock against pre-boot Flynn. There, I can do it. I can criticize him. There you go. That's all I want to say. I think she's the weakest part. It's not terrible. It doesn't ruin anything. But like you said, where it's like her like plan's kind of iffy. It's a little weird. I'm fine with like Mogul showing up because like regardless, if the Master Emerald's not here, he just, kills everybody and he gets to move on and not have to deal with it. So he's desperate, whatever. He literally doesn't have any power, he said. So maybe he can't send it. Regardless, the everything that's left with that's really just wanted to get it over with. And then as far as Sally, I really like just her like having a good time and being able to, go up against Mogul. And then the one thing I did want to say is I really love that Flynn, because if you recall, Naugus is going to be very important, like long down the road, but he's not going to be important like anytime soon. So he's basically just like a nothing character. It's almost as if like Flynn dropped him, which is fine. He's going to use him later. But I think it's very funny that one of the most important things that Naugus can do later is that he can shadow meld. But this was not an ability that he had before. So I adore the way he sets this up, which is that Mogul goes, he went crazy and he's like a mindless dog and he somehow learned to shadow meld. And
somehow.
It's like, oh, now, yeah, he literally says somehow. And so then they use this of like, oh no, Mogul's back. And then they treat him as a joke. But I like that through that, Flynn has now established that this is a thing. So like way later down the road, he can use this for real storylines. It's just very funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bunny and Antoine, they ask Sonic and Sally to be their best man and maid of honor. And then Sonic picks Sally up and runs them back to Freedom HQ. So we see, she's got a flustered look on her face. She's doing the anime thing where her mouth gets all squiggly. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, I mean, the way I describe it is like he's picking her up and taking her away. It's like classic, right? It's like, Sonic carrying Sally away, which is like obviously like the old times. But I really like that she's like not looking at him. Like she kind of like has a smile, but it like you said, it kind of looks like she almost feels like guilty, because the whole issue has been about like, I don't know, about my relation with Sonic and all these things, and I feel like I messed up. So I like that it dodoesn't come across as like, ooh, I like this boy. It comes across as like, oh, we're doing this, so okay, and she's like trying to figure out how she feels, and again, that just makes her feel very human. And it's only in her face, it's not in her dialogue or anything like that. Great stuff.
I also absolutely adore that in the background, Bunny is princess carrying Antoine.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Very cute. But yeah, so then we see a truly cursed image, which is Snively wearing red. I don't like it.
Yeah, thankfully they realized they messed up and they changed it back in the volume release.
Yeah, but so they're basically, we find out they were the ones who hired the hooligans. And Eggman's like, yeah, I knew it wasn't the Master Emerald, but like better safe than sorry, right? So yeah, the egg fleet's ready. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Well, we'll find out. But first, let's just knock out this Chow story now.
Yeah.
So there's a cute, fun Chow story where Sonic and Knuckles and Tails, they go to this Chow garden and they play with some Chow for a bit. And it's basically, it's a way of like introducing Chow to the Archie world. We find out about their ability to like replicate abilities, and we find out about their reincarnation cycles. One thing about this story that's always bothered me though is that so Knuckles' Chow is named Chuckles. Tails' Chow is named Chails. Because, it's a combination of Chow and their name. Sonic's Chow is named Chronic. That doesn't work with the naming scheme.
He's stupid.
He's stupid.
You know what I think it is? So this is my huge headcanon. I mean, my thing is that I think it's supposed to be on purpose. But I think my headcanon is that he came up with Chronic first because he thought it was cool, right? And Sonic he had a dyslexic moment, and he was basically like, "That's like CH, right?" And he's like, and then we got Chuckles and we got Chails. So he came up with Chronic, and then he made theirs. So he's like, "Yeah, they all have CH." And they're like, "Sonic, you're stupid. That's not how that works." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm keeping Chronic."
They do all have CH, but it's the fact that it's not a combination of Chow and Sonic because it's the hard C.
Yeah,
like
that's stupid.
But anyway, then Eggman shows up, and there's a great bit where he's like, "Hey, I'm here to I detected some mystical energy here, so I'm here to get whatever's here." And Sonic's like, "Dude, there's nothing here. It's just a bunch of Chow." And he's like, "So wait, there's no." The exact exchange is what? Then there's no magic rings? Nope. Chaos emeralds? Nuh-uh. Power gems? Didn't you invent those? Did I already ask about the magic rings? Yes and no. But so then Eggman's like,
"Didn't you invent those?" Kills me. I love that.
It's pretty good. But then he's like, okay. But so then Eggman's like, I guess I'll just kill all these Chow then. And then Sonic's like, they fight, they beat him, they knock the thing away. And then they're like, Tails is like, the Chow garden's still destroyed though. And so Sonic brings all the Chow. He takes all of the Chow and pushes them somewhere else.
And puts them in a bag.
But so now they're in a mystic lake of rings in the knot hole, and Sonic's dad has one, and the joke is that because the Chow is with Sonic's dad, it becomes Omo Chow,
which is adorable. I love that.
Yeah, fun story.
This Omo Chow does appear later. They do keep it. So
you told me, yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be for a long time, but I really appreciate that. Also, I would just say that this is kind of a perfect example of Flynn's strengths of taking a game, a game part of the story, like the Chow and how they work and all these things, and doing something really fun with it. It doesn't feel like, how sometimes they'll do those in another time in another place stories, where it's just like they adapt like the opening cutscene of like a Sonic game. And they'll do that with Archie. But I really like the way he like introduces the Chow and all these things. Like it just feels like an actual story, like regardless of any of the Chow lore. It's just very cute and very fun. And I believe this is actually the first issue or the first story that Tracy Yardley actually penciled for the Archie Sonic comics. Because if you notice, in the main book, all the characters are way more angular and like kind of like proportioned, like to look more like Sonic characters. But in this B story, they have their rubber hosey designs that he has in issue 160 and 161. So the theory is that this was because with the way Archie worked back then, they would also just pitch a bunch of stories because, this was back in the time where there wasn't really like a recurring narrative. There's a lot of B stories going on. So writers and artists would just pitch stories. And so this was probably one that they had on the back burner for a really long time. And they're like, when do we put this? And they're like, well, let's finally use it here, like right before the big, finale. And so like, I just really love that, like, that you can just kind of like almost track the progression of these two. And if this is basically equivalently like one of Flynn's first scripts, and props to him because this is a great first impression.
Yeah. You gotta love that due to it being placed here, canonically, Sonic brought all these Chow to Knot Hole
to die
days before it was burned to the ground.
Well, no good deed goes unpunished,
I guess. But yeah, so moving on to Sonic the Hedgehog number 174, Wedding Bells. So here's one thing I've never understood. So the cover of this is a great cover. It's them at the wedding, but there's a big black heart with a question mark right in the middle, hiding Antoine and Bunny. But if you've been reading this comic, you know that Antoine and Bunny are getting married. Like, I think part of it's maybe meant to like put the focus on like Sonic and Sally, like, oh, are they getting married? Like, because they're kind of in the focus. But like, right?
You want to know the answer?
Sure.
Like a real answer.
Yes,
You
a real answer.
You are just correct. That this is wrong. So what happened is that this is the image they used for the, like, when you finish an issue and it says like next time, and there's like a little blurb at the bottom, you can kind of see the rough outline of like the next issue cover, or sometimes, most of the time, it's just already done. And so they put that there so that like if you were like looking ahead or whatever, for like a couple of previous issues, you would, because they probably had like solicitations and stuff for you could see these in advance, so they didn't want to know like, oh, what's going on, right? It's kind of like for marketing. And what happened is they accidentally just did not change the file, and they printed it with that one. So there is a version of this where there is Bunny and Antoine at the altar kissing, and that was supposed to be like the cover where like you could see them. And so in the volume release, they have a little part where they're like, yeah, we fucked up. Here's the image.
Oh, here, let me look. I got it right here. Hold on.
Yeah, it should be in there. And you can see it. And it makes me forever mad that is not actually the cover.
All right, volume 3, Eggman Empire. All right, let's look. Oh, that's interesting. They put the Chow story at the beginning of this. Oh, well. Okay, here we are. Wait. Okay, yep, chapter 2. It's got them kissing. They look all cute. Antoine's wearing black. It's a good look on him. All right.
Yep, so you were just correct. It is wrong and bad.
Yeah, but all right. So getting into the issue, Sonic's getting ready for the wedding. Uncle Chuck's helping him out because he's Sonic's real father. Actually, no, because I like Jules. I like
cringe, bad.
I like Jules too, but like they're both so cool though.
They are both so cool.
Sonic can have two dads.
To be fair, Jules can't give any clothing advice because he is robot. So
he's wearing clothes right here, and Sonic's mom is putting a bow on him.
It's true, and it's adorable.
Point is, Sonic can have two dads. It's fine. So anyway, so Sonic's going, and he meets up with Tails, and they're like, "Hey," he's like, "Hey, Tails, like you look nice. You look like you meet any girls?" He's like, "No, I just went through a horribly traumatic.
I just went through a horrible breakup, Sonic. I'm kind of really stressed, and the alcohol hasn't been helping." And it's like, whoa. But yeah, no. There's a little moment where he's like, "Whoa, you're looking snazzy. What do you want to do? Kiss girls?" And he's like, "Yeah, but like there was only one girl." And he's like, "Well, me neither." But yeah, and then I do like that Sonic like notices he's uncomfortable, and he's like, fuck that bitch. Like you could do better. Like, he literally says like, you could do way better than her.
Yeah, he does not, however, say fuck that bitch.
True, but you just said it, so now it's
damn it.
But anyway, they go downstairs, and there's an amazing scene of Vector giving Antoine wedding advice or whatever. He's like, "Hey man, you've only fainted in public like not a lot recently, so you probably won't embarrass yourself and your wife."
Yeah. And Charmy, the only married man in the room, is also giving him advice.
Married life has its ups and downs, but I'm sure you'll be happy. Charmy, what are you talking about, sir? Oh, right.
You're married.
You're married. Also, I think it's very cute that Mighty is getting Ray dressed for the thing.
Very cute.
And I also think it's very funny that, so like obviously the big joke with like Sonic characters in general, it's like, the guys, they wear like gloves and shoes, but it's like, oh, it's a special occasion, so everyone's gonna dress up. Oh, cool. Now we have shirt, no pants.
Yeah, they should put on some pants.
No pants, not allowed.
Yeah, but I would personally appreciate if they put on some pants.
It's very funny.
So my first note for this issue was bright ass colors, and I don't know if I guess it's just because the last issue was all at night. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, it's also very soft, which I really like. I like the vibe of this issue. It's very jovial.
Yes. I love this issue. But so meanwhile, SBO is breaking into New Megapolis, which I gotta say, did he have to do this today? Did he get a tip or something? Or like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna Marvel no prize this. What if Eggman sent them the tip?
That'd be cool.
They were like, hey,
yeah, go ahead.
They're going. No, so he's like, hey, some shit's going down in New Megapolis. Like, if you want to know what Eggman's playing, you gotta get there today. Like luring SBO here.
Yeah. Now I think SBO's ninja senses just kicked in, and the funniest answer is he's like, dude, I literally don't know Antoine at all. Like, like good for him, but like like I don't need to be there.
Well, they do also establish in this page that like SBO is kind of full of himself. Like they say like he's rightfully boastful because he's good at what he does.
Yeah,
So
the idea is supposed to be that obviously the contrast is that we're having this big wedding, and SBO seems to be the only character who's kind of like, I don't know about that, Chief. I feel like things are going too well. I'm gonna look into this. And to be fair, he is correct. So
there's also a line here at some point where they cut from the wedding back to SBO, and they go like, "Oh, things are so nice here." SBO's solo mission is glaring in contrast.
Yeah,
like I see you, Flynn. I see what you're doing. Yeah, so maybe but what I was saying is like maybe SBO's whole thing is like, dude, I'll be back in like a half hour. Like,
yeah, the implication seems to be that he was gonna, because they're like, where's SBO? It's like, oh, he went off to do something. He should be back, right? That's the idea. Yeah.
So then we get to the ladies. They're getting Bunny ready, and Sonic's like, hey, women are getting changed. I guess this is where I should be.
And they're like, well, don't go babysit Amy. And he's like, fuck.
Yeah. But so they're like, oh, well, I'm getting married to Antoine. That's pretty cool. Hey, Sally, are you ever gonna get married? And she's like, no. And they're like, ha ha ha.
They're like, lol, if only you didn't want to kiss that boy so much. And they're like, let's go. And there you go. That's the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do. They make kissy faces at her. So
I also then back at with SBO, he stumbles across Eggman's battle armor, the Egg Beater, and train of thought come back. So when did they switch over from swap bots to egg pawns?
The egg pawns they were in Return to Angel Island. So I think the idea is that they switched over during the time skip, and because I think there's like a mix of like egg pawns and like shadow bots around the time when Sonic gets back from space. So it just seems like around this time Flynn was like, well, Sonic Heroes was fairly recent. Let's bring those into the games and kind of make those the forces. And they don't get to be around for too long, but I do like them. I think they look really cool because what he does with them that I think is, or what the I guess Yardley and the colorists do, is they kind of just make them like one flat color, which I think makes them look like more sinister because they just, I don't know, this is the scariest the egg pawns and like the different like robots from Sonic Heroes have ever looked, and I really like them. So
certainly.
And I do want to say about that scene with the girls. I just really like that scene. I think it's really cute. One, I want to point out that I love that they gave Bunny a metal looking glove to match her actual robot arm. That's adorable. I love the idea of Sally doing Bunny's hair because, again, like obviously these characters have been really far apart, and so Flynn is pulling back from when they first encountered and making it like a valuable thing of like this is how you want to do like callbacks and references, where it's like they are referencing the fact that like, oh, Bunny wanted to be a hairdresser, so now they're flipping that and being like, hey, like remember you came to me for that, but you know what? I'm gonna do your hair because you're my friend and I love you and it's for your wedding and I'm so proud of you. It's adorable. So all that stuff really great, and I also just really love the joke of Sonic's going around and he's trying to figure out what to do, and they're just like babysit Amy, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
So I do also like this is what makes them feel like actual like real friends, is that they're like because they know that will like fuck with Sonic, and I love that they're like, Rosie, that was mean, and then Sally's like, but funny, and they're like, oh yeah of course.
Yeah, I'll say it's interesting that like at no point does Sally ever consider Amy a serious romantic threat. But yeah. Don't.
Sorry about that. I'm back. Hello. Sorry, I had to shut the door.
I thought you were just completely no selling what I just said.
You're like, I don't care about shipping. No, I think it's this probably won't be something I'll bring up because it's really minor, but I do really like that the way Sally and Amy's relationship works in this is there are multiple points going forward where like Amy will like be really affectionate towards Sonic, and Sally just kind of looks like, oh, that's cute. And then from Amy's perspective, obviously you have their date where she's like, no, like Sally and Sonic, like they love each other, and that's fine, like because I'm gonna be with Sonic in the end, which is both funny and also like really sweet. So I really like that they just support each other. There's no like animosity or anything, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's very nice.
Yeah, but then we get to the castle where the wedding's being held, and Sonic runs into Knuckles and Julie Sue. They're wearing, I guess, traditional Echidna wedding garb, and we get a fun callback to 25 years later, where we find out that they don't plan on ever getting married. It's a really sweet scene where they're basically like, my word to her is as good as anything. Like, we don't really do ceremonies. I think that's cool.
No, I really like that, and I like that. I like the way of like tying it into their characters of like Sonic's like, oh yeah, because Knuckles sees Julie Sue and he's like, "Whoa, she's in more clothes, hot." Based Chadley behavior. And so Sonic's and he's like starstruck, he can't speak. So Sonic's like, "I think your girl looks really nice. What do you think, boyfriend? Say something." And he's like, "I do." And she's like, "Yeah, you're cute too, Knuckles," which is nice. And yeah, I just like their dynamic. I just like how chill they are. And obviously with a lot of the drama that's going on in Knuckles' life, it's not really like focused on, but I really like the contrast of like all this really bad stuff's going down on Angel Island, and Knuckles is like, I'm going to take care of things here. And I just like that Knuckles gets to have these moments of like going to someone's wedding and just having a good time, It's really nice.
Yeah, it seems Bentley agrees with you, so that's good.
Yes, I'm going to go let him out. Don't talk about shipping until I get back.
Okay, so I guess while Ian's gone, I'll just say we're almost an hour in, and we haven't even gotten to the main event yet, so that's a little unfortunate. But this is a good time. I'm happy to be back. Happy to be talking about Preboot. These are the kind of conversations that I enjoy having. It's why we do the podcast. So hopefully you all enjoy listening to it.
This has been Sonic Comic Chaos. I'm Ian Waffles. You can find me at...
Wait, no! I thought you would take longer. I thought you were letting him out like outside. That's like...
No. No, it was like 2 seconds away. So I heard everything.
Okay.
Anyway, what happens next?
So then thank you for listening, everyone, was the point I was getting at. But anyway, Sonic gets to the thing because he's the best man, and him and Sally have a little back and forth. And all the older people, like Elias and the parents and all that, are like, "Oh, aren't they cute? Aren't they in love?" But they don't want to say they're in love. And there's a great bit where after this, there's like an awkward moment where Elias goes like, "Oh, you were almost family at one point." Sonic's like, "You practically are family," and Sonic's like, "Yeah, thanks, Elias." Like he doesn't say that, but like him and Sally are like,
someone here in this room, made that not a thing anymore, and you're making it really fucking awkward, buddy. So...
yeah, but so they like look really awkward, and then the Prowers walk in, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Tails' parents," and he's like awkwardly tugging on his collar. It's really funny.
Yeah, and it's also very cute. There's a little moment later where, because like again, this kind of leans into the idea of like Sally's like teasing Sonic and having whatever, but like it ties into the idea of like they still keep the idea of like they're both still like, okay, but like what's going on here? Do we like each other now? Like I really like the awkwardness that's there, while still like showing like it's like, yeah, like there. It has that feeling of like you've had an argument with someone, or like you have some bad blood, but you're like you see each other at the family gathering, you're like, hey, so you still play basketball? Oh yeah, you're pretty good. But they have a bit more chemistry than that. So I don't know, I really like it. I mean, just in general, like again, it's just really comical going from like what Sonic is now, and then being like, what are the implications of Sonic talking about how like he's going to a wedding, and he kind of believes he might get married one day, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Also, can we just talk about Tails' mom for a second? Like, I mean,
don't say it like that.
Oh.
Look, Sally wears it better. All right, moving on.
People listen to this.
And they say it's good. That's the real lie.
Ouch. Anyway. So
I almost made an Oedipus complex joke. I just hope you know.
Oh my god.
Moving on.
She's not my mom. It's fine.
No, it's that Tails is into foxes. Oh, his mom's a fox. Well, yeah, because he's a fucking fox. Anyway, moving on. It's a dumb joke.
Did you just almost make a joke, say, "Hey, I didn't make this joke," and then call your own joke stupid? Is that what just happened?
What happens next? The Silver Ace-01.
I can't
This episode better not get fucking destroyed. I'll be pissed.
Dude, I will cry. Oh, so SBO's like, fuck, he's got some battleships. That's pretty cringe. So he runs away. Gets cut. Searchlight comes down, sees him. And so then Elias is like, hey, everyone, these two are getting married. That's pretty cool, right? Sally looks sad. Sally, I get it. You're having a crisis, but this is your best friend's wedding. Could you just you muster a smile?
Yeah.
But so
I like the Sonic is he's giving Antoine like a hey, you're gonna be okay up there, man. Like he gives him a little nudge. That's cute.
It is cute. But so oh jeez. So SBO, he tries to make a break for it, but he gets cornered. At the same time that Antoine and Bunny are putting the rings on each other and saying their vows. And in the background of that page, there's like a shadow of Eggman, which is really cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, so they get married. We see Mr. Flynn and his wife, Leah Baker's OCs at the wedding, which is very cute.
Yes.
We see Hershey, so she's not dead yet, apparently.
Yeah, because like every character in the audience is like a real character, and they're just like, who are you people?
Yeah, I remember being very confused before you told me that.
Yeah. Also, I think it's very cute of like, one, you have like Amy crying and stuff, but then I love, she's got like flowing rivers out of her eyes. But then I love Tails, like he flies in the air, he's like, fuck yeah!
Yeah, it's like, Tails, sit down. This is not
Sit down, child.
not the time.
Yeah, and then also this is basically where it's revealed that the narrator of this issue is Eggman, which I really think is very cool because you know, earlier on it's more neutral the way things are being described, but then there's just sort of a like it's like, oh, you know, SBO's not having a good time, but you know, back in Knothole everyone's having a great time, and it's kind of being like a little cheeky about it. It's like, oh well, maybe then, you know, the narration's just trying to be like flowery, you know, because it's a wedding issue. And then the thing that really tips it off, and it's a really cool twist, and I think most people don't even think about it this way, but there's a part where like they don't really consider like, oh, that it is Eggman, because there's the part where it's like, you know, and while the people of Knothole are experiencing their happiest days, SBO is experiencing his last, but you know, what did he expect? Or like, oh, but, you know, but he had it coming, something to that effect. And it's like when you hear that moment, it's like, oh, that's where it's like it's Eggman, where he's being like, that little idiot, he thought he could win, you know, that fool, you know, and then it leads to the finale, which you could explain.
Is SBO sweating milk?
Sweating fear.
So yeah, so he gets hit by Eggman's teleporto beam. My keyboard is not working. I'm trying to click to the next page. It's not doing it. Okay, fine.
What happens next?
And so Eggman's like, they don't stand a chance. And then we get to the big Mama Jama, folks. Sonic the Hedgehog, number 175. The unthinkable happens. Can I just say, holy shit, this cover.
And I think what makes it even better is that for a lot of comics, it's just obviously good marketing. You want the audience to pick it up and you know, go for it or whatever. And what I just really love about this cover is but oftentimes, you know, the covers are more exciting than what's on the inside, or maybe it doesn't accurately depict it entirely, right? Mm-hmm. But what I love about this is you see the cover of like, oh, Eggman's got like Sonic and chains and all these things. And it says the unthinkable happens. And you look at that and it's like, oh, this is going to be like a cool issue. But like, no, it actually lives up to the hype of the cover. And I just think that's like, it just makes the cover even better, you know? Yeah. Because now when I look at it, I don't just look at it and go like, oh, that's a cool like Eggman versus Sonic cover. I go like, no, like it is like, that is part of the narrative. And it's really cool. So.
Yeah, didn't you say that like originally he was supposed to just be like holding him by like the back of his quills?
Yeah, originally he's supposed to be holding by like the scruff of his neck, you know, like a dog or whatever. And they were like, that's too violent. Put him in bloody chains. So they're not
which is somehow less violent.
Yeah, they're not bloody, but he's in chains. And they're like, there you go, that's good. I also love you can tell it's spaz drawing because Sonic is blinking inside his eyes, so that's fun.
Yeah, but no. Yeah, so in the skies of Knothole, the Egg Fleet is mobilizing, and at no point does anyone like look up, I guess, and go like, "Oh, hey, the fuck is that?" Like,
it's because we're all inside celebrating.
I guess they're playing GameCube.
I think they are playing a GameCube.
Yeah, but it's slightly off because it has two bumpers. It doesn't just have the one Z button.
Oh well, there you go. Legally distinct GameCube.
Yeah, they're playing Sonic Heroes 2-player. So yeah, so Sonic's sitting there strumming his guitar that he sometimes remembers he has. Some of the kids playing darts. Like said, Vector and Mighty, they're playing GameCube. And everyone's having a good time. Sonic's like, hey, Sal, things are great, except that Tails is like sad or something.
I keep noticing, but I don't do anything. Funny that.
Yeah. But so Tails goes and has Mug Joe with Rotor. But before that, okay, I skim past it because it's glossed over pretty quickly. Knuckles is like, hey, Is anyone worried about where Espio is?
He was not drinking at the party. In fact, he was not at the party.
He was at the party.
What the heck?
And so Julie Sue's like, I'm sure he's fine. Come on, come here. And then Rouge like pushes her out of the way. And is like, I'm sure he's fine. Or no, she's like, nah, let's go look for him alone, you and me, in that bush over there.
Together.
But yeah, and so then Rotor and Tails have a cup of coffee, and Tails like, hey Nicole, I noticed you're running slow. Can you run a system diagnostic? And she's like, yeah. Diagnostic complete. Holy fuck, we're under attack.
And then I love, by the way, so Snively is the first one to attack them, but I want to point out, like, it's Snively. So he says, like, hello, my friends, which, like, when you think about it, it's like, oh, that's really sinister. But the way it would have sounded them is, hello, my friends. And he fucking shoots you in the head with a gun.
You're right. Oh, jeez. But
So they're under attack, and it's awesome.
Yeah, so Snively busts open the roof of Freedom HQ, and Rotor pushes Tails out of the way. He gets some rubble on him before he gets seemingly vaporized. Yeah, because Snively's just blasting everyone. So Julie Sue pushes Knuckles out of the way. She gets vaporized. Rouge gets vaporized. A couple of Chaotix get vaporized. So then Bunny gets vaporized.
And Sonic, I love Sonic's reaction because like everyone's like people are panicking or like Sally's in action mode, and Sonic's just like, Snively just like, and he's also like mid tossing his guitar, like he's just like, well, you know, I guess I have to get up and fight for my dead friends.
Also, can we just point out Bunny and Antoine are coming out of a closet?
You mean a designated room?
Point is, they were definitely banging.
I was going to make this point, but I didn't know, if it would be too risque for the podcast. So I'm glad you did it.
Ian, can I remind you of what was said on this very show not 10 minutes ago?
Please don't. But yeah, no, they come out and they get vaporized. They get murdered.
Yeah, and I've always found it funny the pose Sally is in when she gets vaporized. Like, something about it is just humorous to me.
Also, if you look at the part where Julie Sue is like pushing Knuckles out of the way, she literally goes cross-eyed. If you look at Sally, she's like, whoa!
Yeah. Yeah.
Really funny.
But so then Mighty just loses it, and he like tears Snively's arm off and starts beating him with it. The robot arm, not his real arm.
That would be awesome.
It'd be pretty hardcore if it was his real arm.
Hello.
Dude, it'd be awesome if Snively had that scream. But yeah, so then Mighty gets vaporized, so it's just the core four left: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy. And Snively's like, bye, bitch, and he blows up the robot and flies away. And so the other three are under some rubble, and they're like, Sonic, just go do something. We'll be fine. So Sonic runs off to Knothole because they were in Freedom HQ, which is different.
More like Knothole because it's gone. So that's been Sonic Comic Cast. Find me at YouTube and Twitter. You can't see my likes anymore, which is for the better of everybody.
Oh yeah, for sure. But so Sonic gets to Knothole, and it's just been burned to the ground. Chuck's Diner is gone. The Lake of Rings is gone. Sonic's house is
gone.
Yeah, those Chow are dead as fuck. Like, because Eggman probably didn't teleport. Well, no, he probably did.
Actually, fun fact: they do actually come back, and there's an explanation for what happened to them, which is very cute.
That's good. But so he gets to the castle, and the castle just blows up in his face, and Eggman walks out wearing the egg beater, and it is the fucking hardest image I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think it really is sad that, like, again, like this issue, like, take away all the Archie nonsense that people don't like, for better or worse, right? The idea of like Sonic versus Eggman, and Eggman wins not through like a big machine or whatever, but through just like beating Sonic's ass. Like, and I don't know how this isn't like everywhere. Like, I don't know how like people, like, the thing people always point to in this issue is the limit part, which is literally for the wrong reasons they bring it up. But like, no one ever brings up like Eggman beats Sonic here, like definitively. Sonic never beats this robot.
No, I think this is probably my favorite Sonic Eggman fight ever in anything.
Yeah, and like the way he wins, like obviously there's the which we'll go to the moment, but like there's the mental aspect where he's like taunting Sonic and bringing up all these things, but there's also like you can track like how he's doing it, where it's like he shoots all these missiles and then like Sonic has to like either dodge them or he jumps, and now he has to traverse the missiles. So now he's in the air, and then Eggman blocks him, sends him away, then follows it up with another attack, then he's guiding him along the way, and he's like taunting him and all these things. There's like the whole fight you can watch as Eggman is just like guiding Sonic across the battlefield, and it's just awesome,
Oh yeah. Also, the egg beater looks so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's a great design.
Yeah, like it doesn't lose any of the Eggman charm, but like it's designed like you can 110% take seriously, which is great. But so Eggman walks out of the fire, and Sonic's at this point he's like, and what I think is actually really telling here is that he calls him Robotnik here, which he doesn't do much anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't do it too often. Sometimes he'll casually mention it, but like you can tell he specifically like Eggman in the context of the story is an insult, and so like he kind of drops it,
Yeah, and so he thinks everyone's dead, and so he's like, I'm standing in their ashes. And,
yeah, basically.
And Eggman's like, nah, I captured all of them. I used my teleporter beam. I got all of them, and I'm gonna use them in my egg grapes to fuel my city. And they're gonna be dead as fuck then, but they're not dead now.
Yeah, which gives Sonic like the idea of like, oh, then I can still win if there's hope. And he's like, you stupid idiot.
Well, and also Sonic's like, oh, so you wanted to get me, but you didn't. And Eggman's like, no. I told Snively to leave you for me. Yeah, which is such a fucking hard line.
And then he and then he actually does it.
Yeah, so he fires some missiles, and there's a great panel of Sonic like rail grinding on a missile.
Oh, sorry. Awesome. Real quick before the fight, I just want to say the moment you were talking about where Sonic thinks like everyone's dead. That's probably like one of my favorite like Sonic like expressions, because like he's like the way his body and his face are. It's like he's got like this like grimace, but like it's almost like crooked. It's like he almost like can't do it. So he looks like he looks like sad, like scared, and like furious, because he's also like got his hands in like a position of like they want to grab something, like they want to choke Eggman basically, but then like he's also like leaning back like he can't stand, and like the way his like his eyes are, it's not like a scowl, it's like a crooked scowl, because like he's like like I said, he's like scared and angry. So like there's just so many emotions conveyed in like this one image, and he's only like this for this one panel, but every time I see it, like you just like you sink in every word that he's saying, because it just punctuates that like emotion you're looking at so good, so well. So I love it.
Oh, it's great. And I mean, here's the thing, I read all of the Eggman dialogue with Jim Cummings' voice, and it is, I would pay, like, does Jim Cummings have a cameo? If he does, I might throw some money his way to read some of this.
Like, yeah, I need Winnie the Pooh to say this now.
Yeah, certainly. But yeah, so we get the parts you were talking about where he's taunting Sonic. He's like, a bunch of your friends have died. Your father's a robot. Your love life is falling apart. And yet you have all these people, but you're all alone.
Yeah, which is basically him saying like, and for your final failure, hey, Sonic, where's all your friends? Where are all the people you're trying to protect?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
And then there's a great bit where Sonic's like, shut up. And he's like trying to hit the thing and it keeps bouncing off. And Eggman goes, that's your witty comeback? Like,
well, like the way I read it, it seems almost like offended. He's like, that's it? Like, come on, bro. Like I said, you have so many good one-liners. Yeah. Because he even says, he's like, no, dude, like, make this fun for me. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. And that's where Eggman drops the bomb. And he's like, dude, you think I couldn't have just like firebombed your stupid forest hideout at any point? Like, I did this because it was fun for me, but now I'm done with you. This is over. I win. And so yeah, he's falling around. He's like, the whole world knows I own them, so you're the only one left, so come on, let's finish this. And he's swinging around the wrecking ball from his robot in Green Hill, and he like fucking smacks Sonic with it.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up about the Egg Beater. What's really cool about it is obviously it looks threatening, right? But with like a story like this, and when you have a character like Sonic who can take all this damage, you have to like somehow convince that like, oh, but this time when Sonic gets hit, it's like a real hit, right? And the way they do that is, one, like they make it very visceral. Of again, like it's like the robot is so like it has like very like thin limbs and stuff, because Eggman wanted to make it like as personal as possible. Because I've seen some people talk about like Oh, like wouldn't it have been cooler if you used like the Egg Emperor from like Sonic Heroes, right? Where it's got the big shield and it's got like the lance. And it's like, no, because what Eggman wants this fight to be and why the Egg Beater feels so like visceral is that it is the closest Eggman will ever get to like actually going like mano a mano to Sonic, right? To where like he's just like punching him, he's kicking him, he's like pushing him away and all these things. So it feels visceral in that sense of like it's almost like Eggman is the one like actually hitting Sonic. And so what's really cool about it though that they do for to tell you that this robot's a big deal is one, they have the mace or the wrecking ball you mentioned, and if you played Sonic 1 you know that you can't break the wrecking ball, right? And then the other thing is the shield, and the shield is a bumper. Well, and we know in the Sonic games the bumpers are things that you can't destroy, like they are part of the environment and they kind of push you along. So when he's blocking with the shield, you don't feel like, well, what's so special about this shield, right? It's like, no, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's like a bumper from the games, you know? And so that gives you that context of like, oh, this is a big deal, you know? So just really smart design choices all around.
Yeah, I agree. This thing is fucking awesome. But so he's like, I've got you, Sonic. You've reached your limit. And Sonic's like, limit? And he runs all the way back to the East Coast because apparently they're in North America or whatever the Mobius equivalent is.
Yes.
And he charges up a super peel out and he goes right for him. And he runs at him really fast. And he just fucking whams him. And I love, like, I can totally imagine this in like a movie or like a show or whatever. Like the way it would be shot, the impact. Like this is very cinematic.
It already looks cinematic, you know.
Yeah.
Like I love the aspect of like it looks like Eggman jumped to dodge and Sonic still went at him because he like bends his knees down and then he like stretches them out. So it was almost like he tried to like make Sonic go under him, but Sonic still went for it. So like which also probably helped him because then he was able to brace for it and like fall back. But I really love just like the fact that like the smoke clouds get blasted away, you know? Like just so many cool things. And then also if you notice to like sell the impact of it, Sonic, like when he goes to like the East Coast, he's pushing back the ocean with his power because you can see like shells and stuff, and like you can see like the ocean like parting backwards because of like the force. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that was the most smart about it. So again, people talk about this scene all the time, and they always just explain it in the wrong way. And then now that's been like used against it because then I saw someone like, so what people use it for, and they'd be like, wow, this is so raw, right? And it's like, the scene is not supposed to be raw. It's supposed to be like, oh my gosh, Sonic's losing it. And then he loses. It doesn't work. You know? And so that's been then used against it of like, people say this is so raw, but like, it doesn't even work. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like the point of the scene, like everyone's getting it mixed up. The point of the scene isn't like, oh wow, Sonic's so fucking cool. It's like Sonic looks like he's lost his fucking mind. He's got like the crazy eyes, you know? And he's like, limit, you know? So like the whole point of that moment and this issue is you shouldn't be using that as a, oh, Sonic's so cool. You should be using it as like, wow, Eggman really got to Sonic, you know? Like Sonic is like fighting, like Eggman's brought up all these things like, oh, your family, your friends, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's all a game. And then the thing that finally makes Sonic snap is when Eggman goes for his ego of like, I've studied everything about you. You've reached your limit. You have nothing else. And he's like, you motherfucker, you know? And so what makes it really powerful too is that Eggman is scared. He doesn't think it's gonna work because he's like, he shouldn't be able to go that fast, you know. And so like it makes Eggman feel even more powerful when he's like, I think I'm gonna die. I think that's just the end of my life. Like he basically says like, oh my god, in like a kid's way. He says, oh my gears and starters. And so like when he puts the shield up and it works, it doesn't feel like, oh, it works because the story said it works. It works because like even Eggman's like, oh shit. Did I fuck up? And so like when it, you know, whenever he get, you know, at the very end he does it, it's like, oh wow, it only dented the shield. Yeah, this robot is made to kill Sonic, you know, so it's awesome.
Yeah, so as you said, doesn't work. So Eggman just pummels him a bit more, and then again you just have this awesome ending monologue where he's like, I'm gonna go back to my city, I'm gonna turn on the egg grapes, and everyone you know will be gone. So you can go, you can run around, you can try and find some new little furry friends to make a freedom fighter group. You won't find anyone, and you'll never escape the humiliation of today. And he just drops him and flies away, and Sonic's just left there like a broken, like, I think he's crying.
Yeah, he is correct because there's a tear that comes out of his eye when he falls, which obviously, like, if you know, depending on how you want to interpret it, you can interpret it as like, because you know how sometimes like you get beat up and like that's like a thing that will visually show it or whatever. But like, I think it's meant to be like he's like so scared, he's so like terrified, he's so hurt that like regardless, like regardless of what the meaning of, or regardless of what is making him cry, the idea is like, yeah, Sonic is beaten and broken to the point of like it looks like, you know, he's crying. Like that imagery is being invoked in this of like Sonic is at his lowest. And I would just say like, again, like there's no blood or anything, but like the way Sonic's like eye looks and like the, to me the specific shot, like he gets brutalized, but the moment that always sticks out to me is when Eggman's holding him and he's given his big like run for the rest of your life. If you look at Sonic, like Sonic looks terrified, you know, like he doesn't just look like, oh, I'm beat up. He looks like, oh, like please don't yell at me, like, you know. He looks scared, and I really love that. And it just someone brought this up before, and I'll bring it up here. But there's that one panel when he drops Sonic and Sonic's just kind of laying there. And I like that, you know, because it's a comic, you can linger on it for as long as you want. And there's really no definitive answer of if Sonic would have got up on his own or not, or if he only gets up because Tails comes and finds him, you know. And I just really like that desperation to it. And then because Tails comes and finds him, and he's like, "We're gonna move on." And I love that Sonic, again with like the art contrasting the dialogue. He's like, "Well, you know, then you know if people are alive, then we still have hope." And then he's like, "You know, go get Amy and Knuckles. You know, we gotta like go start the party." And if you look at Sonic's face, the part of his face that's like beat up, he has like this big grin, and then the part of his face that's normal, he has like this like angry look. So like there's a split down his middle of like the side of Sonic that's like been like basically humiliated. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill that guy. And then the side of him that's like, yeah, we're totally gonna win this, Tails. Like we're gonna get up. And it's just great. It looks wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. But we move on to Sonic the Hedgehog number 176, Cracking the Empire. So yeah, so Sonic goes back to Knothole with Tails, and he's like, "Yeah, shit sucks. I got beat up. He teleported everyone away, but don't worry about it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take some stuff from the lab." Which Rotor doesn't make guns anymore. What did you think you were gonna find?
Yeah, at this point, I think he's just desperate. Like he's just like, what can I do? But also like he changed his mind from the last issue. I like, which is like, because again, like the whole point, he's like, oh yeah, we're great. But then like as he's going through the scene, he's like kind of just giving like matter of fact answers, like, oh, everyone's gone. Was burned to the ground. Oh yeah, I was kind of getting beat up, so he's being kind of passive aggressive too. And then like Tails like, okay, well let us help you, you know. And he's like, no, it's fine, I'll take care of it. Like you guys stay safe. I will get our friends and family back. So like you can tell that like Sonic is like, one, there's a part of him that wants to keep his friends safe. But then there's the side of him that's like his ego's been bruised, which is really interesting, you know?
Yeah. Oh, certainly. And then that comes to a head where he's like, because Tails keeps going like, "Hey, no, you can't do that." Like he's like, "No, like we gotta do something. Like you can't go by yourself." And he's like, "Don't worry, I got this." And he's like, "No, you don't have a plan for this." He's like, "Dude, I got this." And finally Tails is like, "Dude, he just kicked your ass. Yeah. You do not have this." Like the line I love is, or does your plan hinge on you getting your butt kicked again?
Yeah, and I've seen people try to look at that and like, oh, like, come on, Tails, like Sonic gave it. It's like, no, the reason he's saying that is that Sonic is like, yeah, I got my ass beat, but like this time I'm really gonna win. And it's like, yeah, Sonic, it's your pride, right? Like it's Sonic's ego that's trying to be like no, he's like, Tails, I got this, I will do it, you know. So you know, like obviously he does care about them, but that pride is leading him. And Sonic's like, Tails like, no, you're gonna get killed. And this is really important. This is gonna tie into a lot of things with Tails and Sonic's relationship. So it's pretty good that he establishes this here. But yeah, no, it's just really cool. And I love the little silent panel of like them kind of staring at each other. Cause I think if Flynn wanted to, like if he wanted to like pick a side, he could have had like Sonic looking like, oh wow, I didn't think Tails would do that to me. Or like Tails maybe being like, oh, like he looks away. But I like that they both look like furry little mongrels who are like pissed at each other, because it like really sells that like both of them are like at like their wits' end here, which I like.
Certainly. But I will say they do still have Amy and Knuckles being surprised in the background, like, holy shit, I didn't think Tails would say that.
I didn't think Tails would that. Oh. Yeah. And then later, Sonic's the one who's like, hey Tails, I just wanted to talk to you about like me being an ass. He's like, well, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. But cool. Yeah, so then they Nicole pipes up because she was also left behind. She's like, hey, I got a plan. And so then we get this scene, which is just so good, of Eggman going to the egg grapes. And he's like, hey, I just want to thank you all for coming. Like he's doing like a
time out of your busy schedules. I know we had a wedding recently. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's like giving like a twisted like award acceptance speech. It's great.
Yeah, he goes to like everyone. He's like, to the Chaotix, I want to thank you for being stupid enough to ally with people who were gonna die. You didn't have to do that, but it was really nice of you.
Yeah.
Elias, I want to thank you for being like the worst king ever. It was really embarrassing for everyone, except for me, which I loved. So
yeah, and I love that like there's little details in all of the bubbles. Like
Yeah.
Like Bunny and Mighty's are both cracked because they've just been like punching at him. Espio is meditating. Antoine and Bunny are like trying to get to each other. It's just cool. The baby's crying. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, no.
And
it feels like with Mighty and Bunny, it feels like, oh, like they're still trying to fight back, you know?
yeah. And meanwhile, the four they fixed up one of the I mean it started with the Dark Legion, like the Dark Legion flying UFOs that they just kind of all use now. And yeah, like I said, Eggman's like, dude, Elias, you suck. And his wife's like, don't listen to him. Like, I love you. And he's like, oh, isn't that touching? And then there's a great bit with Charmy where he gets pulled away from the other grapes. And he's like, oh, Charmy B, haven't I already ruined your life, destroyed your kingdom or some such, right?
Yeah.
And then Charmy starts giving him the business, like, yeah, you did, but you know, I'm never gonna stop fighting, and like we'll stop you. And like like in the background, a bunch of characters are going like, yeah, Charmy, you tell him. But meanwhile, Saffron is just like, Charmy, shut up. Just stop talking. What are you doing? Like,
yeah. It's really cool too, because like to me, like this is the not to spoil like the ending of the story, but like this is kind of the thesis of the freedom fighters and why they're so valuable is like, you know, the whole idea is like Eggman is saying like, I could have like destroyed you guys anytime. And like, I've already ruined so many of your lives, but I like what Charmy's saying. Like, he's literally a bug, right? And he's just like, yeah, like even if I'm the last one to stand, even if like you do something to me now, I'll still fight no matter what, and everyone's gonna fight you too. So it's just kind of this idea of like, just really selling this idea of like, even if it's like hopeless, even if like it doesn't even make sense to like, you know, to even say that to Eggman, because like you're fucked, dude. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, it just shows that like that drive that they all have to just struggle to the bitter end, and I think that's really admirable, and it's really cool that Charmy B gets this moment. Now I think we can just talk about this now. So from this, Charmy B gets brain damage because he uses the egg grapes to sap away a lot of Charmy's energy, and that gives him brain damage to where now Flynn can kind of revert him back to like the mentality of a child, because Sega wanted him to kind of be closer to the games at the time. So this was the way Flynn wanted to do that. Now people have a lot of problems with this. From the perspective of like maybe like it kind of feels like insensitive or something, where like there's a moment where later where like Charmy's like 1, 2, buckle my shoe, woo, you know, because he's, you know, whatever. So like the idea is kind of like I could see people being annoyed with that, kind of treating it like a little goofy or whatever. But I think like the actual idea of like Charmy getting like really hurt by this, I think it's really valuable to like in general. I think there's a lot more good than bad, because I really like the idea that like it wasn't just like, oh, like Eggman's gonna do something and then like, oh, but like everyone's okay in the end. No, I like that Rotor, his back gets broken. Charmy has like brain damage. They lost their homes, like their original homes. So I think it actually goes to add to the threat of Eggman that it did actually leave a lasting consequence. And I think it makes Charmy look pretty fucking badass, you know, that he like he said, even whenever he's reduced to this childish state, he still continues to fight on and stuff. Now, the backlash from this will cause Flynn to use Charmy less, which I think is one of the negatives. But when Charmy is around, I really like that. I really like that he has this part of him. And even though it's tragic and it's really dark, I think that just fits with the way Preboot works and the way it treats war and death and all these other horrible things. And, you know, that's what makes the idea that these characters keep fighting even more valuable. So I really like it, even if there are a few like hitches, you know?
Yeah, I think they certainly lay it on thick here because Flynn wants to get it across. So like, no, Charmy's been like irrevocably damaged. I'll have to, you know, pay closer attention to him going forward to see like kind of how it affects his character overall. Because, you know, we've seen a good bit of Charmy leading up to this. But just from what I remember and from this now, I don't really have that much of an opinion, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah. No, the worst thing you can do on the internet is not have an opinion on something, Ian. You know this.
True.
But yeah, like you said, he flips on the thing. He tries to drain Charmy's energy. And the Sonic heroes, they bust through the wall. And what's great is that Sonic's like doing his like macho grandstanding at first. He's like, hey, don't start the party without us, Robotnik. And he's like, oh, hey, what's that? And then he immediately is like, oh, fuck, no, not again.
Yeah. Well, I like the desperation of it too, because if you notice on the way to the event, Sonic's just pouting. You know, like he's just like in the car, like, oh, fucking tell me to fucking, you know. And then like they go to like, and I really like it too of like they go through and like obviously Sonic's really damaged, so like they have like Knuckles and Amy like fighting all the robots. They actually like go through one of the giant hammer ones, which is really cool. And then also like the way they get in, right, is that like you can see like the doors are like busted open, and I highly doubt, you know, Tails just ran face first with the hover car. So I would imagine, right, you have Knuckles like coming out and like aiming with their hammer, I would imagine that they broke through the wall, you know? So like I really like that they show like the ways in which like these characters needed to come with Sonic, you know, in order for this to work out. And then, but then like you pointed out, Sonic comes in and he's like, okay, now it's my time to shine. And I just love the desperation of like, no, I can't be too late again. So like, you know, this idea of like, no, I already failed. Like, no, this is supposed to be my moment to save things. Like I have to be, it can't be happening again. Right. So it just, again, it adds to that urgency, which I really like. Cause like, it never feels like, even though like our heroes come back fast, you could feel like, oh, this is a bit rushed. But I always feel like it feels like it's just go, 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 go. Even whenever they come back, it feels like, oh gosh, what's going to happen, you know? So I really love it.
But so Sonic saves Charmy. There's a really cool bit where he like, so he swings up onto the thing and Eggman was like, hey, wait, no. You were supposed to be too sad to do this. The exact line is, no, you're supposed to be beaten, your spirit broken. And Sonic goes, shows how smart you are.
Yeah. Great.
Which you could read a lot of different ways. But I think it's probably like, it is probably like a little bit like grimmer because Sonic's just like done with all this shit. So he,
I always read it as like, shows how smart you are, you know, like, cause he looks pissed when he says it.
So he spin dashes. He almost kills Eggman. Eggman like almost.
I think if Eggman didn't dodge, he would have been like, well, you know, no skin off my back. he didn't move.
I guess hopefully I don't get any blood on Charmy, but you know,
yeah.
But so he gets Charmy out of there. And he's like, okay, Eggman, like I'm gonna check on Charmy, so you have that much time to run, which we know is actually cool because we know that his plan is for Eggman to go get in the egg beater. So that's neat.
Run away, Eggman, the man I want to kill right now, but I'll do it later because I'll definitely kill you later.
Yeah. But so they're like, Charmy's gonna be okay, and even Mogul is like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I love he's just like, there, Charmy B. I am sorry for you. Maybe. Yeah. Will that get me a house?
But so they run out, and Nicole did something to Eggman's computer. We find out that was part of the plan. And so Sonic's like, all right, we need to make sure everyone stays together. And the egg beater comes down. There's a really cool panel of it flying like fucking Iron Man or whatever, like the energy charging. And he's like, all right, back in the grapes. And he just starts teleporter beaming everyone. And eventually it's just like Sonic, Sally, like a handful, like some randos.
It'd be funny if it was Ian Flynn and his wife.
What?
It'd be funny if the randos were Ian Flynn and his wife.
That would be funny. But Ian, I know you adore this scene, so I will let you explain it.
So basically, so the big plan is that like they need Eggman to zap them because they're going to be teleported somewhere else. But you know, we don't know that, and Sally doesn't know that. And so like Sonic's going through, and they're just like, he's like, all right, everybody follow the lead. He's like, oh, they're grounded everybody. It's like, wait for it. And then like he's like, okay, like is there a plan? It's like, well, I didn't say it was my plan. Is and it's like, oh, Nicole said it was ready. It's Nicole's plan. So like Sonic's not like helping her at all. And then they get to this wall, and like Sally's just like, can you bust down the wall and like get us safe? He's like, yeah, probably, but I'm not gonna. And she's like, are you lost your mind? And he's like, no, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. And then like Sally just like reaches out for Sonic, like, Sonic, save me, as like she gets evaporated, and Sonic's just like, this is gonna be fucking awesome. Like he just has this look of like, I'm gonna fuck Eggman over so hard. And it's just so funny that like, yeah, Sonic says like, oh, I can't spoil this, but it's like, Sonic, you're explaining out loud what's going on. So like, if Sonic really wanted to like not leave Sally, scared, he could have been like, Sally, like grab her hand or like grab her shoulder, like, Sally, trust me, something like that. But no, he just completely is like, oh, this is gonna be so funny. Oh my gosh. And so like Sally is panicking. He's like, Sally, I'm having a moment here. Can you not? Like, he just lets her freak out. So as far as Sally knows, Sonic just let her die for his ego.
Yep.
That's pretty great. And then all the while Snivelly's like, a boss? Hello, my friends. Doing that in Eggman's ear. He's like, stop it, I didn't sign up for ASMR. All right. And so they're doing that. And then he's like, sir, nobody's in the egg grapes. And there's just this wonderful panel when he tells Eggman this. It's just a silent, tiny panel of like Eggman and the egg beater. And just the way it's shot and the way his arms, it just looks like he's like a dog that just got told, you peed on the carpet, didn't you? Like he just looks
this needs to become a meme. I love this panel so much.
He looks so dejected.
It's great.
And so it's paced like a comedic moment too, of like, sir, they're not in the egg grapes. It shows that, and then the next panel is like if this were a movie, it would just smash cut to him flying away. It's like, all right, get the egg, please.
Yep.
So it's pretty good. I love that scene.
Yeah, it's great. But then we find out, well, where did they go if they weren't teleported to the egg grapes? Well, none other than the Nanite City. Remember that place where Adam did all that weird tentacle stuff with Bunny? Yeah, it's there. But it looks pretty different. Ian, why does it look different?
It looks different because, so as we know, during that time, Adam was in charge of all the nanites, and he infected a bunch of people, including Tommy. And as we saw, Tommy could take over the nanites for a bit to like regain his composure. So hey, who was another character who was controlled? Another AI like Adam, and that would be Nicole. So during all this time that the Freedom Fighters have been doing their thing, Nicole has been kind of like working with the nanites to try to see if like she could do something with them. And basically, she's been busy building the city as a gift for her friends. And it wasn't finished until, now, or, until very recently or whatever. And Eggman kind of like forced her to like finish things up really fast. But yeah, so the reason the city looks like it does now, it looks like it looks like the old Mobotropolis before Eggman destroyed it. And so our heroes basically effectively have their home back because of Nicole, which is awesome.
Yep. But Nicole gets something out of the deal too, which is a body. Yeah, she looks like she did when they went into Shadow's mind and not Shadow's disc, and when she had the romantic stargazing session with Sally.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's a neat design. I've always liked Nicole's design.
Yeah, I think the idea of it just being kind of like this one flowing dress with all these little layers, it kind of keeps that digital, like she looks ethereal, which I really like.
Certainly. But yeah, then they're like, all right, this is awesome. We got our city. Nicole's got a body. We're all good. And Nicole goes, maybe don't celebrate yet, because we see all of the egg fleet is flying towards the city. Which brings us to Sonic the Hedgehog number 177. The last issue of this little thing. Although what's interesting is, in the Sonic Saga trade paperbacks, this issue isn't in there. They put it in volume 4 as the first issue, which I guess they just didn't want it to run long, but also like, come on, guys.
Yeah, come on. Well, especially if these were releasing, like, I doubt they came out monthly.
Oh, there's no way the Sonic Saga ones were. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, like, that would suck.
Yeah.
By the way, imagine, like, you go to a book fair as, like, a little tyke. It's like, oh, it's Sonic! And then you pick it up, and, like, Sonic's getting his ass beat. And then, like, at the end, it's like, and then Eggman came and killed them all. Maybe read the next issue. It's like, I don't have the next issue.
Dude, that's being a young comic fan 101. Is just having random issues and going like, well, I sure hope they made it out of that.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, so it starts, the story is called Home New Home. And it starts with Nicole being like, oh yeah, we had a lot of criminals with us too when we were escaping. Well, bye. And she just teleports like Mogul mid-rant. He's going like, hey, everyone, listen to me. Like, obey me and you might survive. And she's like, no, and teleports him, Fnac, Bean, Bark, all to the prisons. And Fnac says, and I quote, how many times am I going to get thrown in a stinking cell by those fucking freedom fighters?
It's so funny. It comes out of nowhere too. Like, obviously they've cursed before in the story, but it's just funny that like you get to the Flynn era and like it's like, oh yeah, this is still Archie.
Yeah. And Mogul doesn't say a word. He's just like, God damn
it. He's like, I'm now really mad.
Yeah. But so Sally and Nicole high five because like the platonic gal pals they are. But we find out that because there's a force field around Mobotropolis and it's getting hit by all the egg fleet. And Nicole's like, yeah, I don't quite have the energy for this. I'm just going to, you know the meme where it's the guy who does the peace sign, he fades away? Then Nicole does that. She's like, I'm going to go do some other stuff. Anyway, I'll be back.
Well, and it's very important because it's not just like, oh, like I got to go, I'm busy. It's the idea of like, because Eggman, like I like the idea of like, they have the shield, but they immediately establish like, it takes a lot of energy for it to like do its thing. And so like, because Eggman is attacking them, she can't keep her form. So obviously emotionally, we understand like Nicole really worked hard to like have this body and like really cares about it. She wants to be with her friends. And yet as soon as she gives them this gift and like they get their homes back, they get their lives back, she has to vanish and disappear like she always does and protect them from the shadows basically. And we see like Sally really doesn't like this. Like it makes her like brings her to tears. She's really upset. So I really like that. Like it's very subtle, but I just like it pays into like the finale really well, or just this idea of like, oh yeah, everything's fine. But then it's like, oh, but like, at the cost of like, you know, Nicole doesn't get to like enjoy this with us. So that kind of is going to push a lot of the heroes. It's going to push Sally forward going forward. So it's really cool that they get this lucky break, but then like there's still more things that they could lose and like why they need to keep fighting. So like it's like I said, where it's like this is only 3 issues, but I just feel like there's a constant momentum that I really appreciate.
Certainly. Also, what's fun is that throughout this entire issue, they have the Krakoom onomatopoeias in the background.
Yeah, because they're just constantly being shot.
Yeah. Also, they didn't know the difference between Sonic's mom and Amy, so Sonic's mom is colored like Amy in one panel.
Yeah,
so that's fun. I wonder if they fixed that in the. Hold on.
they do.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. The long box is all the way over there. I don't want to reach for it again. But yeah, so basically the king's like, look, everyone just go home, go to sleep. I'm tired.
Go back to Knothole. I don't like it here.
But then the king and Sally are both like, go, Sonic, you really should go see a doctor. You probably have multiple concussions. This is not like and on the way, Sonic sees Rotor, and Rotor's like, yeah, I got to be the cool action hero for once. It's all good. Like, I'll do some physical therapy and I'll be back in no time. And yeah, but this injury will have lasting consequences for Rotor, which we'll see later. And yeah, we get the scene with Charmy where he's like all wacky, but hey, you know what? He still loves Saffron. And
yeah, I appreciate they didn't delete that
yeah.
He still remembers her.
Yeah. And also, I gotta say, Espio is drawn oddly in this.
I think it's just that the horn's really high up on his head.
Yeah, that's what it is. Also, he's got like a weird triangle like thing on the top of his chest. I don't know. Anyway, he goes to Dr. Quack. Sonic goes to Dr. Quack, and he's like, hey, check my shit out. He's like, oh, you're fine. You've absorbed a lot of rings. That
Go home, you big jerk.
Yeah. He's like, now, if you'll excuse me, Sonic, I want to go see my kids. Yeah, and so we go over to Dr. Evil and Scourge. For people who have not listened to previous episodes, I'm referring to Dr. Finitevis when I say Dr. Evil.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. He's doing shit with the Master Emerald because Locke left him in charge of watching it. Because he definitely doesn't look like the most evil man to ever lived.
It's true. He literally has blood red eyelids.
It's great. But Scourge is like, hey, the head. He says Dimitri made a run for it, figuratively speaking. He literally says figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
He's like, that's awesome. My plans are all coming together. Nothing can stop the return of Enerjack. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun.
But and we get back to Mobotropolis. Sally and Bunny and Antoine are sitting on the top of a tree, just kind of looking over everything, and they're like, dude, this is awesome. Like, this is everything we've been fighting for, like, to be back in Mobotropolis. And there's a cute scene where they're like, oh man, like thinking back to like, when we were just in a cave thinking we were all orphans. And Antoine's like, oh yeah, and I was a big coward. And Bunny pulls him in with her robot arms, like, oh, I always knew you were brave, and like holds him. That's cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. Well, I just like that, like they could have just been sitting next to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the idea of like they, just the idea of like, oh, like he's against the tree, and then she reaches over and pulls him close, and they hug and stuff. It's just, I don't know, just very cute. Again, just like getting across so much with so little,
Yeah. And then, but yeah, so Sally's like, yeah, I remember when I left all in the battle, but now everything's so complicated and stupid. And what I love is her hair keeps like getting in her face during this scene, which will,
which is symbolic of something.
And she's like, hey, Bunny, remember how you wanted to be my royal hairdresser? And she's like, yeah, of course. And it's like, I have a favor to ask of you. Then we cut back to Snively. We cut to Snively, and he's bombarding the shield. And Eggman's like, what is taking so long? He's like, they got a big fucking force field. I don't know. And there's a little biplane that starts shooting at the ship. And it's none other than Hope Kintobor.
Indeed.
And she's like, dude, you fucking suck.
Yeah.
Like, you told me to leave, and I left, and then I come back to Knothole, and it's a pile of ash. Like, and now, like, how could I ever face the other, like, the freedom fighters again? Like, so you know what? I'm gonna go to the United Federation, and I'm gonna help them kick your and Eggman's butts. And Snively's like getting all teary-eyed during this, but the egg pawn keeps going like, sir, can we shoot her?
Command
Sir.
to shoot the little girl. Command to shoot little girl. Little girl got shot. Snively. And he goes, calm down, my friend. Yeah, I really like the scene. I think like it does a really good job of just like getting you to like care about Hope pretty quickly. Because yeah, like you really feel for her, like the idea of like obviously it's not her fault that she like left or whatever, but like I love her idea of like Sonic and them took me in, and like while you were just doing all this stuff, like I just kind of left them, and so I like the idea of like one, she feels isolated, but then two, it ties into this idea of like Snively, like he's pretty much irredeemably evil, but I like this idea of like there's just a little part of him that's just like, well, maybe I care about Hope. I don't know. Because like the way he sent her off was basically he was just like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you should leave. But like he didn't tell her explicitly like bad things were going to happen. So as far as he's concerned, if she didn't leave, she probably would have hurt her. This kind of back and forth was so intentional that Flynn even said like in a thing where he was like, the scene ends with like them being like command to fire, and Snively kind of looks all like he's crying, but he also kind of looks like offended and like upset, and like you don't really know how to take it. And so Flynn has said that at the time he was unsure if the ending of the scene, like not as he was writing it, but like post the scene, was he going to reveal that like she got away, or was it going to like make Snively even worse, and that he did actually shoot her down? So it's just kind of crazy that was even like thought about, And I don't know. I just really like the scene. It makes also like you have Hope. She's like actually attacking the egg fleet, and it's like doing nothing, right? Yeah. But that just kind of sells. Like it's a good way of like selling. She could have just been like yelling or whatever. But like the idea of like it's almost like she's like it's like when a kid throws a tantrum and they're just like trying to hit anything they can. But in this sense, it feels really like sad, for Hope. So just like one little scene, I think it's like 2 pages, and it just really makes you care about Hope and be more interested in Snively, which is really good.
Yep. But then we cut back to not Hope, Mobotropolis. It's gonna take a while to adjust saying that. And Amadeus tells his dad is like, dude, I'm gonna do some shit. It's gonna be awesome. Like you guys are not ready. You're gonna shit bricks when you see what I got planned. It's gonna be awesome. And Tails is like, all right, Dad.
And then his uncle's like, no.
Yeah. But then Eggman shows up in the egg beater and he's like, get out here. I did all this cool shit. I had all of you. I give that big speech and you're just gonna leave? No, get out here. Let me vaporize you. This is stupid. And then Eggman comes out and he's like, are you enjoying, or then Sonic comes out, he's like, are you enjoying your little tantrum? And Eggman's like, oh yeah, I knew you'd come out here, but like I'm gonna kick the shit out of you again. And Sonic's like, yeah, whatever. And then all of his friends teleport out, I guess. It's a nitpick and it's a cool page and it's certainly worth it, but like when you're just reading it from like one panel to the next, it's like, wait, how did they all get out here? Like, how is Sally standing in front of Sonic now?
They all run at the speed of sound.
I guess it doesn't matter. It's cool. It's a really cool page. It's unfortunate that because Rotor and Charmy are gone, we're missing some people from it, but whatevs.
And also specifically the thing that Eggman points out is like, he's like, you idiot, like you can't fight me alone. Like I made this robot just to beat you, dummy. And then he's like, yeah, I know. Which means that you can't fight these guys either. Because, Eggman isn't saying that like, oh, if you had your friends, you would have stood a chance. He's just saying like, it was stupid of you to like even try it without like a futile resistance. But, like in that sense. So like what Sonic is flipping on him is basically like, yeah, no, I know that I can't beat you. So fight these guys. And because he even tells them like, he's like, all of you get out here, so I can destroy you. So like, it's like, okay, big guy, fight all these people. And it's even pretty smart because they like basically just use Sonic as bait, which is really nice. Because then Eggman like comes down to taunt him. And so, yeah, I mean, you could explain the scene, but it's really good.
Yeah. So yeah, first, we have the first string, which is the power players. So like Knuckles and Vector like rip off one of the egg beater's arms.
Mighty like punches him with one fist.
Yeah, and I think Mighty rips off the other one because he's got it in the other panel. And then Bunny pulls out this big like fuck you laser and like blasts like the entire top off.
Like melts it.
Yeah, and then the second line move in and do nothing.
I think the idea is that because Amy does the most, but I think the idea is that they're supposed to be weakening the joints. But Amy does the most.
Yeah, and then Amy knocks the legs out from under it, so it's just got its little like butt jets. And so it's just Eggman, this like half like it looks like a cracked egg. That's fun.
That is good. That's a good point.
And so Sonic just spin dashes and breaks the rest of it. And he's like, you said this was a game, well, we've chosen to continue. Game on, Robotnik. Callback.
And yeah, also the whole point of the speech he's giving is basically like, yeah, you did beat me, fair and square, but at the end of the day, even if like, like I like the way that Sonic builds up his friends is it's not that I can do everything, but like, if there's like one thing I can't do, like fine, they can handle it. No, I love that the way he frames it is that you're so low that I can take care of you, no problem. But I'm just one guy. If you were to like, if somehow you were able to beat me, you definitely would never be able to beat my friends, basically. Yeah. Which is awesome. And it kind of shows like the idea of like them fighting as a team and a unit. And I just really like that Flynn could have had this be like, generally, and especially if it was like a battle shonen, the idea you would want is like the hero would like come back stronger, probably due to like wanting to fight for their friends, or maybe they fight alongside them, but like they get the winning blow. And I like that Sonic really like his winning blow isn't even like really anything. It's just like like a pot shot, basically, like kicking Eggman while he's down. So I really like that. Like Flynn definitively says with this issue, like, no, this is not going to be a story where like you have all these disparate characters and they're just doing whatever. And he's also not saying that this is a story where Sonic is the main guy. This is a Sonic comic. It should be about Sonic, damn it. No, he's saying like this is a comic about the freedom fighters fighting back. So who's going to win in the end? It is the freedom fighters themselves. And by doing that, that is such like just the most respect I could give Flynn in terms of like just being like, wow, like he really went for it and said like, no, all of these characters are fighting Eggman. And so I'm going to show that they are, and they're a unit too, it's not just like one person. And so, yeah, it just really, basically like this whole culmination of the story is that shot of like seeing all the characters coming out and being like, wow, I actually care about all of you, because Flynn has done such a good job of either recontextualizing a lot of these characters, giving them more moments, and then you actually feel like, yeah, this is a comic about the freedom fighters, not just Sonic and the freedom fighters. And it's great. It's wonderful.
Certainly. But yeah, so they're down. He's down, and Sally is like, okay, yeah, get the fuck out. Her exact words are, you're trespassing on royal grounds. As princess, I order you to retreat back to New Megapolis. And Ian, you brought this up in the initial recording, which is something I didn't think of. Well, first of all, he tries to firebomb them. He tries to fire all the egg fleet at them.
You're going to tell me to leave? Kill you and me.
And myself. Something you brought up is that, because I had always wondered, I always then like, okay, cool scene, I'm willing to overlook it, but like, why didn't they just like arrest him? And the reason they don't arrest him is because all the guns are still pointed at them.
Well, and also, if his response to "you get to live" is "I'll kill you," a few options. What do you think his response would be to "We're gonna arrest you"?
Probably more "I'll kill you" than myself.
Yeah, so, and also remember, he was willing to blow himself up when they were letting him go. So even if they were like, oh, you're a hostage, you'd be like, fuck it, kill me too. He's not thinking about it, So, yeah. And also, the big thing that matters, by the way, is not just that, like, the guns are all aimed at them, like, in this moment, which I think you were referring to this other thing, is that the guns are aimed at, like, their city. So, like, and the reason Nicole can't be here is that, like, the guns are constantly shooting the city. So, like, assuming they, like, kidnap him or whatever, and they like, capture him, well, Snively's still up there, and all the robots are programmed to not let Snively do whatever he wants. So Eggman will then just be like, okay, well, keep fucking firing on the city. And that's assuming they even get him inside in the first place, right? Yeah. So the whole idea is we want Eggman to leave so we can regroup, So yeah, that's the point of that. And like, obviously, Nicole says they're showing him more mercy than he deserves. But I think that just means like they're not gonna kill him. Like we can kill you right on the spot. You're at our mercy, dude. So yeah, and then so they send him away.
Yep, he rides an egg beetle, I think it's called, to safety.
He's like, I was just kidding that time.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, well, I was toying with you before, but now this is war. I will annihilate you all. Which, again, he says while riding an egg beetle to safety.
And so, to which Sonic and Sally, I love the way they comment, where Sonic's like, you got to give the man credit. He knows how to make an exit.
Yeah. And yeah, Sonic comments on, oh yeah, we forgot to mention, when Sally shows up, she has her classic hairstyle.
She does. She cut it.
Yes.
Which is a classic trope of like a woman, or usually a woman, but like men also do this. Like Zuko does this in Avatar, of like cutting your hair is like a symbol of like growth or maturity, or like changing something about yourself, which is really cool. And it's also very nice because I know like some people really like the long hair, which I do too, and maybe they thought like, oh, maybe Sally could have like owned what happened to her and basically like carried her hair forward. But the hair didn't come from a, like I'm trying a new thing, mom. Like it came from the fact of like she was not taking care of herself. So I think it makes perfect sense to cut her hair. And also like it is a way for her to physically show herself like, no, I'm going to go back to what I want to be, which is, myself. So I really like the cutting the hair. And she still even gets a little moment of like being like, it's symbolic. And Sonic's like, wow, what are you, so girl? And then and he's like, shut the fuck up. And he's like, all right. And it's great.
Yeah. And he says, it's good to be home, Sal. Which I think is, has a lot of different meanings. And yeah, we see that Charmy and Saffron came out to celebrate. Vector is fucking breaking it down in the background.
Yeah, he like falls on his head and like there's little like notes coming out. So he's jamming out to Undefeatable. You know it.
Yeah. But yeah, and that brings us to the end of Eggman Empire. Still fucking great. Still
yeah, it's great. Go ahead.
I love it. Again, probably my favorite thing we've read thus far. It might be topped next episode though. We'll see. I actually don't know. I haven't read the House of Cards in a while, so maybe it will, maybe it won't. But yeah, no, this is great. I think we said all we really need to say about the story as we were describing it. It's great. Highlight of definitely the early parts of Flynn's run, if not the entire thing. Ian, do you have any final thoughts?
It's iconic, I would say, to like just the Sonic franchise, and it's one of those things where obviously nobody watching this is someone who doesn't read Archie or like at least know a little bit about it. But I just think it really is sad that like you have this wonderful story that again, like people, one of the big things that people complain about with Sonic games is like, oh, Sonic's stupid friends, right? And not in the sense of like people don't like the friends, but like that people perceive them that way, you know? And I just think like, and they want those characters to come back. They want like a Shadow game or a Blaze game or like for all these characters to do things in the stories. And I just think it's really sad that a lot of people don't know that like, oh, like, sure, obviously there's some characters you don't know about, but there's a whole story that basically says like, no, Sonic's friends mean so much to him and they're really valuable and they are something that he needs to lean on. I also really like that, the story, like you have Sonic's moment where he's like his pride and his ego, but Sonic doesn't like believe that he's better than the Freedom Fighters. It's just a low point for him that he needs to be pulled out of. So I like that whenever Sonic comes out and he gives this big speech about how like he's lost in all these things. I like that it's a moment of like him like kind of coming back to his senses, you know, like Sonic didn't like need to learn the lesson of like trust your friends. He already trusts his friends. He was just in the lowest place. And of course, his friends were able to pull him out of that part. And now it's like, this is the Sonic we really care about and we really love and we know, which is that, yeah, he's cocky, he's arrogant or whatever, but like he trusts his friends above everything else. And now he's pushing them forward and saying, this is how cool my friends are, you know? And that's just awesome. And it means a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of stories about Sonic, like, you know, believing in his friends and trusting in them and stuff. But I just think like this is the moment that it feels the most powerful. They are saving their home, you know? And it's wonderful. It's great. 10 out of 10. Excellent.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, like I said, I think we'll probably just do House of Cards next time. I think we want to get back into our normal rotation before we and then we'll keep doing obviously the IDWs and the throwbacks. But yeah, next time we might do it after next time because these are two pretty charged arcs back to back. So then I think 5. What is 5? I think 5 is like some Mogul shit, right? I don't remember. But anyway, I don't know. Ian, plug your shit.
I'm Ian Waffles at Ian Waffles at Twitter and YouTube. I don't do anything except show up here sometimes. So yeah, thanks for having me as always. It was a pleasure.
It was. You can find me here. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.